It is Friday evening. You made it through the week. Achievement unlocked. Congratulations. So nice to see you back here on With the Terrible Fates Twitch stream, the Tales of Praxis series. I'm your host, Aaron Suduko, the founder and chief video game analyst of withtheterriblefate.com, your online home for all of the most rigorous, in-depth analytical publications and analyses and celebrations of the storytelling of your favorite narrative medium, video games. If you are just joining us, Tales of Praxis is a series that we've been doing for about the past half a year, with a few different horns to it. Horn one, what you found this evening, is a series of streamed playthroughs of Bandai Namco's Tales JRPGs, a sort of live book club vibe in which we engage with these games not only one at a time, but also in conversation with one another, thinking about the amazingly robust language that Bandai Namco has put together for telling the stories of these characters and just expressing meaning through this JRPG system over the years, and the impact that it's had not only on these stories, but also on video game storytelling more broadly. And then Horn the Second is companion analytical articles of With the Terrible Fate's more typical bread and butter, which you can find on withtheterriblefate.com. And this coming week, I haven't set a publication date, but I'm going to say with a target of Monday or Tuesday, you'll be able to enjoy a new something of that flavor. The work that I've been doing for the past probably 6 weeks or so, really since just before Labor Day weekend in PAX West, on Tales of Destiny and Tales of Vesperia is nearing its conclusion. I was hoping to be able to join you this Friday evening saying that there was a complete draft in hand. It's not quite the case, but we're quite close. I've been spending the day. PlayStation wants to be involved. PlayStation always wants to be involved. Oh, you couldn't hear that because I'm on my other view. My PlayStation interrupted me. I've been spending the day, amongst other things, working through a character study of Rapide, which regulars will know is a big reason, according to which I've undertaken this study in the first place. I say I've been spending my time on it, but if you've been looking in the chat, the matter of who's really writing it at the end of the day is a bit up for debate. Is it me? Is it my dog? Is it a combination of the two? Well, you'll have to read the theory and find out through the application of the theory. But it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. I do hope you enjoy it. I don't want to give away too much of the article, but I'll say something that's been fun, which is another analysis-ism that I really enjoy and oftentimes stumble upon, is in the last stage of Tales of Vesperia's story, I found myself coming, I think, to finally understand and appreciate a setting in the game, which I never really quite liked, which is the City of Hope, Ornean. It just never sat quite well with me, but arriving at it by virtue of this particular analysis and way in which to see it, I think I found a new appreciation for it, which I'm excited to share with you. That and also what is the best grounding I at least can put together to offer for the summon spirits as an aspect of Tales of Vesperia that is in fact continuous with and a logical development of the themes that the game wrestles with in its first two acts. I think many people, including myself when I first played the game, rushed a judgment to say that the summon spirits feel like some kind of deus ex machina or an insert that doesn't really gel with the rest of the story. I don't think that's right, and working through this study has not only given me a much better appreciation for the combined praxis of Destiny and Vesperia, but also I think has finally helped me to wrap my head around what I think Vesperia has been trying to say all along. So especially as someone who was initially a Vesperia skeptic, I'm excited to share that with you and talk with you about it. It's also going to be a good centerpiece for the idea of Tales of Praxis, because we've talked in the past about this idea of praxis as basically these games representing different modes of agency and reflections on what it is to act in the world according to different principles of action. And that lurks in the background of everything we do in these live studies. It lurks in the background of what I'm concerned with when I publish my written articles, but it really takes the center stage in this new study that we have coming up and talks a lot not only about the principles of Praxis that are developed in these games, but also I think is going to be a good example for showing you what I mean in terms of Praxis as a way of cultivating a particular form of engagement in the players, both with the game story and also with life beyond the game. Because to bait you a little bit and hopefully get you to read through the whole article, which is not a book like the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Wittgenstein one, but is pretty substantive, hopefully in a rewarding way. At the end, actually, something that usually doesn't happen with my analyses has fallen out of this one, namely the idea that if you buy into these interpretations of these games, the interpretation actually comes with particular obligations on the player to play the game in a certain way. So, like all Tales games, these games have options in terms of what you can or can't do and what you choose to do at various points. If you buy into and play them with this interpretation, I want to convince you there are certain choices that you should and should not make for reasons that ultimately, if you find these views of Praxis empowering, will leave you feeling especially empowered as a player. So let that be reason to read it. Let it be reason to go back in New Game Plus, those two fine games, after you do. So that's the best hook I can have before actually sharing it with you, but very excited to have that off my desk and into the worlds for conversation with you fine folks. I will also say the other thing that will hopefully be happening, maybe even contemporaneously when I release the article early this coming week, is we will make a decision on what it is that we're going to play next. But I'm not willing to call it just yet. So tonight I will be once again spamming the chat as people come through with the form to vote on the next game that we're going to be playing on the stream for Tales of Praxis. So if you love these conversations, if you love the Tales games, if you want to dive into one that you've always loved or one that you've never quite wrapped your head around and want to dig into it with a different perspective, this is your chance to make your voice heard. And if you're watching the VOD, it's in the description on YouTube too. But hopefully this coming week we will have a resolved decision and I can stop bullying people into voting and start bullying people into getting primed to tune in for the next one that we do, which will be very exciting. But for the moment, we are finishing up with Tales of Berseria, and I am very excited to dive into a fine Friday night with that. I did have a good Friday, Grail. Great to see you as always. Thank you for saying that. I hope you had a great Friday. This, of course, is the... well, I was going to say it's the highlight. It's a highlight. I can't in good conscience say with my dog Evie next to me that it's the only highlight, since I also spent the morning, like I said, writing about Rapide and thinking a lot about my own Rapide. But two great Tales-related highlights, and we'll be able to bring them together next week, which will be a lot of fun. Hopefully this is a great way to ease into the weekend for both of us. That's the dream. I think you are going insane. We're going to have to find a new game to make the deep lore if we end up streaming Tales of the Abyss, because as we know, the cardinal rule of the Tales of Praxis stream is you're allowed to talk really deeply about every Tales game except the one that's being streamed at the moment. Although who knows, after I publish this enormous tome of a work on Vesperia and Destiny, maybe we'll have plenty of reason to talk about Destiny and Vesperia if and when we work through Tales of the Abyss. All right. For those of you who need catching up on the actual context of the stream, we spent last week working through the wonderfully moving conclusion of the main story. Now we've been doing really just exceptionally high quality and really interesting side quests that offer much more vivid and in-depth portraits of individual characters. So far, we've done Eleanor's and Magilu's and Eisen's, which also dovetailed with Zavid, who is not a party member, but a kind of interloper between Berseria and Zestiria, as we talked about over the last couple streams. I was going to recommend, I actually had time today to do a little homework and planning around this. Who would have thought? So it won't be scripted, but hopefully there'll be a little less chaos in the mix of this. So I'm thinking it's going to make sense to start with Laphicet's side quest. If you might remember, because we started this quite a while ago in the stream when it first came up in the story, Laphicet and the rest of the group came across this child Vidal, I think his name is, looking at these notes in Renede, who was looking to develop this mythic elixir, the Omega elixir, and was trying to put together the ingredients and the recipe for it. And nothing ever really came of that because it fell by the wayside while we were doing the main story. But that is the central through line of Laphicet's quest. So I figure we'll go through that. Rokurou has some more side content in line with the Code Red hunts, which will also be fun to work on. And then we can see what else we have time for and interest in. Actually, one thing that I wanted to check in on before we get too far into this was, as is so typical of Aaron and these games, I totally put the idea of cooking by the wayside from the start of the game onward, which was probably a mistake, especially considering how food and consumption centric this game is, as we've talked about. But I wanted to see how easy or hard it is to level up Velvet's cooking level, because there are scenes with Velvet and kind of what at least this guide describes as Velvet's side quest, which is, sorry to say, gated behind her cooking level. So I'm hoping we might be able to develop it pretty quickly. But we'll see how that goes. And if it becomes a real hassle to figure that out, we don't have to see it through, but I feel as though it would be nice to. Now, having ingredients would be good.
It should be edible.
Well, that doesn't bode well, because that barely bumped her level at all, and I think we need to get it to level 20 in order to see that all the way through. I feel I want cooking to be good in this game, Grail, because like I said, I had forgotten how central a theme the idea of just food and hunger is in this story. And I think really at the end of the day, we could read a lot of even the final irrational bond between Velvet and Nominat in terms of how they ground the universe through the lens of what it is to consume and have a void within you that needs to be filled in some way. So I want it to be good. I just, as regulars to the stream know, I have such a hard time buying into cooking systems in general. All right, well, we'll stock up on 1 million ingredients when we go to town, and we'll put it on auto cook. And I guess we want to allocate it initially to something for which we have a lot of ingredients so that we don't run out, and then we can just semi-autopilot it at least while we work through some of these other side quests. So this is okay. It would have been better for Aaron to have thought about this a couple streams ago, but better now than after having done Laphicet and Rokurou's side quests. So glass half full. All right. Yes. Good.
You've been warned.
Can we also, or are they going to be full if we try to cook now? We probably can't force function it, right? Oh, can we? Can we just do it that way?
It should be edible.
Oh, I mean, this also kind of works. At least it doesn't gate it behind the party being full, the way it works in so many other games. Which I guess makes sense if we think about the party as being perpetually hungry as they are. Well, maybe I can just spam this quickly and see how far that gets us. It's a Friday stream! Ah, yes. The deep narrative substance of Tales of Berseria. Yeah, Grail, we could do a whole a challenge battle condition around hardcore cooking. That's the real challenge of Tales of Berseria. The way her voice is cut off, it almost sounds as if she's saying some kind of incantation in another language. Something in the ancient tongue, I'm sure. It shadung, it shadung. Anyone have any fun weekend plans?
Edible, at least.
All right. Well, that's one. And we're back. I feel like ideally at least if the system works the way I would hope it works, as her base level increases, it should also presumably be easier for her to get subsequent increases, right? So one would hope that the rate of XP gain would accelerate. But that's probably not the way it works.
If you like it, I can make it. It should be fun. It should be fun. It should be edible at least. It's fun. It should be fun. It should
Oh my god.
It should be fun. It should fun. It should fun. It should fun.
Talk about button mashing. This is my punishment. You know what this is? This is dramatic irony because I had been complaining about how the battle system incentivizes you to button mash. But at least the battle system doesn't have you just literally spamming a single button to this extent.
It should be fun. It should be. I had free taste it, so I know it's good. It's fun. It's fun. It should fun. It should. If you like it, I can make it. It should fun. It should fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It should fun.
I mean, kind of this in the battle system, but not this extreme at
Edible
least.
at least.
Good for you, Grail. Yes. Big supporter of blowing off work for your own self-preservation and self-respect.
I can fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It should fun. It should fun. It should be fun. It should fun. It should fun. It should fun. It should fun.
Okay, we're halfway there. She's at level 10. I think that's actually enough to get the first part of her side quest, but there's no way I'm going to go back and do this a second time, so we might as well force the whole function right now. I hope no one stumbles upon the stream for the first time right now, because I'd like to think, at least, I hope that this is not representative of what we usually do. So if this is their entree into With a Terrible Fate, all I can do is apologize and say, please come back and try again in a few minutes. Or check out withaterriblefate.com. This is really not how we think about games usually.
It should be edible at least. It's fun. It should, if you like it, like fun.
Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo-doo.
It should fun. It's fun. It should fun. It should fun. It should fun. It should fun. It's fun.
Yeah, Grail, I always think of the old story of Einstein working the job at the patent office.
Make it fun.
At least how it's usually told. It was similarly that kind of just grunt work, somewhat mindless, but gave him the opportunity to do all of the intellectual and creative thinking required to come up with the theory of relativity. I think there's a lot to recommend that.
It should, if you like it, I can fun. It should be fun. It should fun. It should, I have free taste it. Fun. It's fun. It should fun. It should fun.
I know, Grail, it reminds me of Shion a little bit in Tales of Berseria, always eating 10 portions, yet somehow never gaining a pound.
It should be edible at least.
It's thematically connected. It's the thorns and the malevolence. These poor beings are always empty, no matter how much they consume.
If you like it, I guess you'll never forget how. I had free taste it. I guess you'll never forget how. I guess you'll never forget how. I had free taste.
Shut the hell up, Grail. This is a Friday stream, and I will not abide you being unkind to yourself. The stories that you come up with and the characters you have told me about are very useful and cool and interesting.
I had free taste.
In fact, I've been meaning to ask you, because we haven't talked about any of your own storytelling work in a while. Have you been able to develop any of that further? Because truly, I'm very interested in those stories. You have quite the fantastic mind for it. Okay, we're almost there. Push through. Oh, it's harder than a super boss. Damn. The real Spiral Draco was the food we cooked along the way.
It should fun. It should be fun. It should fun. It should. I had free taste it. If you like it,
One more level.
it's fun. It's fun. It's fun.
Oh my god, this is how Aaron gets carpal tunnel. I'm not going to be able to finish writing out the article this weekend because my hand will be broken after this.
I can make it again.
Oh. You never know what to expect from a Friday stream, do you? All right. Anyway, I feel like since we took the time to do that, we might as well start things off with Velvet's side quest, and then we can do Laphicet and Rokurou after that. All right. Let's see if we can find it. I think it's just in Titania. I think we have to go back to Titania. The guide is actually kind of unclear, but we'll figure it out. Distracting yourself with another idea. There are worse problems than that. So what's the new idea that has derailed you in a positive way? It sounds like. Let's put it that way. That happens to me a lot, by the way, too. I think it's just the it's one of the trials that comes with getting too excited about ideas with too many faces to them, which is a good problem to have. That's huge. Awesome. Congratulations. That's definitely progress. Oh, there we go. Awesome. The skit procs right here. Even better. But first, the most important part of this game.
Ship has returned. Eye of newt and mushroom spore, tender parts of prickle bore.
Sleepy Princess picture book. I'm in.
Show them how Ifreed's crew can sail.
I think I'm finally getting the hang of cooking without testing the taste.
You know, I've always thought you were a really good cook, Velvet.
It's not so hard. All you have to do is follow the recipe. After my sister died, I always did the cooking. The most important thing is adding just the right amount of salt, and the final adjustments of flavor. Oh, and once you're just about done, you have to make a wish that it turns out tasty.
You wish for flavor?
Yeah, so long as you do
When
that,
you
anything
wish
that's not
upon
tasty
some
good. Celica taught me
salt.
that.
It sounds like your sister was quite the master chef.
Oh, I don't know about that. But now I'll never be her match. I've lost my taste, sure. But I've also forgotten what it even feels like to taste something delicious. What I make isn't really food. It's merely sustenance.
I don't think that's true, Velvet. Nom, nom, nom. This is great. You're a fine chef, Velvet.
I just remembered something my sister said. She always wished for our food to taste good, because she wanted to see us happy when we ate it.
Oh?
And she said I ate like a pig, too.
I don't think you do.
It's a good thing. You should eat a lot, too, so you can grow up big and strong.
Food and cooking really do constitute such an interesting nexus for so many of the main themes of the story. So, I mean, when you think about it, like they were reflecting on in that skit, food can just be this purely utilitarian thing that, to use Velvet's word, sustains you and allows you to merely persist in the world. And yet, so much of the experience and meaning of food comes from satisfying your particular urges, and having, you know, special culinary experiences and indulging and all of those aspects of human emotion that go beyond mere sustenance. Nice too to get reflections on Celica as such a great chef, because then of course you get Velvet not only reaching back into the past of, you know, the food that she appreciated growing up now that she consumes with no capacity to taste, but also reaching back to that understanding of her sister before she was Ceres and before Velvet consumed her. All right, where are we off to now? I think we might have to cook again. Because it looks like we need to get a couple more skits to proc. But I think we need to more specifically cook Crow's special quiche, which we don't have all the ingredients for. Alright, we're gonna go shopping. Hopefully it's not too hard to find specific ingredients. I do remember that, Grail. Did you decide to solve that problem with your own creative energies? Because I love that for you if that's what you did. Can you not buy food ingredients at stores? Is that a thing? Do you have to get them from enemies as drops? Because that's going to ruin my life. Oh, at the bottom. Ah, bless you. That was going to ruin my life. Oh, a modern world with summon spirits. Now, I forget for all of the conversations we've had around Final Fantasy VII. Have you played Final Fantasy VII? Because you say that, and that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Not that that doesn't mean there's no space for another interpretation of that, but... yeah, Final Fantasy VII... I guess Final Fantasy IX a little bit in some parts of it, but... that feels like more of an older world fantasy vibe mixed with some modernizations. Like there are a lot of kingdoms and stuff that resonates perhaps a bit more with Berseria and Zestiria there. All right, let's see if cooking this quiche will get the job done for us.
I had food tasted, so I know it's good.
Yes! All right.
Yes, I think I've just about nailed the look and texture of how she used to make it.
Oh, did you make a quiche, Velvet?
Laphicet? Perfect timing. Would you give this a taste for me?
Sure, I can do that. Wow, this is incredible! It's so soft and flaky. It's really delicious.
That's good. I don't know if it tastes the way Celica used to make it, but I'm glad to hear that it turned out okay.
Oh, that's interesting, Grail. That almost reminds me, I don't know if you've watched or read any of The Boys, but that reminds me of kind of the way in which they treat superhero stories, but for summon spirits, which sounds very fun. I would love to read something like that or play something like that.
Now I have to go see the dogs.
You mean Orthy and Russ?
Yeah. There's something I need to take care of.
Like what?
Yeah, I think a big part of Shinto, which has a giant plurality of gods and everyday gods, is like the gods draw strength from worship and people's faith in them. So it would be interesting to see someone play with that kind of model of like summon spirits gaining energy from like people's belief or admiration of them, and then set in a modern world where celebrity becomes the conduit for that.
Eleanor, are you feeling okay?
Why do you ask?
You always seem to enjoy eating, but today you looked like you were struggling a little bit.
Really? Well, I'm not sick or anything. I actually feel even better than normal.
If you say so. Wait, do you just not like quiches?
No, I like them just fine. Velvet makes some great ones, doesn't she? It's amazing when you consider she can't taste them.
I've got it. You hate spinach, don't you?
I suppose there's no point in denying it. And here I thought you people would eat anything.
How can you hate
I
spinach?
know a lot of people don't like
I'm a
carrots
nut for
or
spinach.
bell peppers, but spinach? That's a new one to me.
You think so? It's quite bitter and it's got that smell. Kind of grassy or something medicinal, or...
Eleanor is
I didn't know
5
you
years
were so
old.
picky. Actually, now that I think about it, you had some trouble with the solitoma too.
It's actually because of the solitoma. I I used to love spinach when I was little, but now it just reminds me of... solitoma. I've had to take solitoma...
Hugs, welcome back, my
but it had
friend.
the opposite
Happy
effect
Friday.
on me. Now spinach tastes sweet by comparison.
So much for the serious, mature woman. Looks like even you have some child left in you. But don't let it get to you. Being a fussy eater is just another way of life. You're in charge of your own plate.
I just don't like spinach. What's the big deal? Besides, I know you all hate it too.
That's a good point, Hugs. I did not have that experience growing up, but I had the experience that I think is very similar, and a lot of people say they have with tomatoes, where I grew up hating tomatoes, even though I liked things like ketchup and tomato sauce, just because I think I never had a really good fresh tomato for years and years and years. So quality of produce, I tells ya, makes a big difference.
I'm talking about the spinach method. Supporting peers in achieving cohesive harmony. It's the foundation of any successful team, and you all completely fail at it. Okay, so first, what the hell are you dribbling about? And second, I'm not going to be lectured by some wee baby who won't eat her spinach.
A wee babby, if you're
I do
reading
what
the
I want.
subtitles.
I'm a free woman, and I don't need to live by your rules.
Some of us just aren't cut out for team leadership. We'll leave that to you. You just let us each do our own thing.
Yeah, it took me a while to get into
Don't
onions
be
as well. Yep,
ridiculous.
that's one.
The spinach method is the first thing every pirate learns if they want to join Ifreed's crew. Sometimes the younger sailors forget all the steps. I was just running a refresher lecture on it last night. Eleanor's on the money here.
By the way, Eisen, I'm still waiting on your latest report.
Yeah, I love that Eisen line too, Grail. That's a great
while
one.
now.
Oh, I was gonna get to that, tomorrow.
I've had it up to here. All right, you three, sit down and listen. Did you not hear me? Sit down and listen. I don't need to live by your rules. Some of us just aren't cut out for it. I'll do it tomorrow. You might as well be toddlers. Our enemy is formidable and well organized. Some might even say we'd be crazy to take them on. Surely even you three can recognize that any small lapses in cohesion could bring total disaster upon us. How did we get from spinach to a lecture on team building?
Gonna say, you got all that from a plate of spinach? Food truly is the nexus of all team building, cohesion exercises, and leadership. All right, and now we are to the inn in Miercio for a scene that will wrap this one up. This was a fast one. Oh, that's really interesting, Grail. Yeah. So how did you end up arriving at that idea of the final boss villain? What was your process? What kind of character did you settle on? There was no scene? Am I stupid? Ah. Maybe this is it? It says we're looking for a scene with the doggies. Oh, maybe this will proc it.
Come on, has your fever finally gone down?
It
No.
has, and it's all thanks to you.
But
This
now
one might
there's
take some
something
finding.
extremely important that she must ask of you. Would you hear her out?
You sound really serious. What is it?
I want you to open my treasure chest with me.
A treasure chest? What's inside?
Well,
Treasure, of course. So it's a secret.
But it's a really, really, really important treasure.
How important are we talking here? Would you risk your own life for it?
I totally would. It's at least that important. Maybe more.
Well, if it's that important, then I guess we'll have to help you.
Yay! Thank you.
Where's the treasure chest then?
On some ice? Floating out in the sea.
Next time, you should probably leave it somewhere a little safer, Kamoana.
Oh, and you can't open it without the key.
This is getting more complicated by the second.
Well, if you leave a treasure chest unlocked, you're just asking for trouble.
Duh.
Okay, you've got me there.
It's first grade,
Do you
Velvet.
remember where the key is?
It's in Dial's pocket. I slipped it in while he was sleeping.
Yeah, I don't like where this is going.
What else was I supposed to do? It's a secret key.
Yeah, I know.
All right, let's go hunt down Dial. Good luck.
Lizard Hunting 101. These are our doggy friends, the Hellions, I'm pretty sure. Why won't it let us interact with them? Am I stupid? Do we have to cook it again? Let's try cooking the quiche one more time. Quiche, where are you? There it is.
I had food tasted, so I know it's good.
Well, you know how I feel about that type of antagonist, Grail, so as you continue to flesh it out, I hope you'll keep me apprised. That's definitely enough to pique my interest. No, it won't even let us sleep here. What the fuck? I wonder if we have to resolve this stuff with Kamoana and Dial before the inn becomes available for other stuff. That's weird. Alright, well, might as well follow the exclamation mark over here. Gonna hope that's where Dial is. Maybe. Ah, that looks like a lizard man if ever I've seen one. My friend.
Why the hell did I have to be an old lizard? Why couldn't I be a salamander? At least I could breathe fire to warm myself
I
up.
hear you, buddy.
Don't move, Dial. We're going to search you now.
What? Why? I haven't done anything wrong. Today.
No key.
Figures. You must have dropped it somewhere.
What are you all talking about?
Kamoana says she hid the key to her treasure chest in your pocket.
Seriously? Why me?
I just figured that if anybody tried to steal it, you'd, like, bite them and stuff to protect it.
I'm sorry I didn't live up to your expectations.
Any idea where you might have dropped it?
That's hard to say. Wait, it might have been when I was drying my shirt back in the inn. I think I heard a clink of some sort there.
Wait, when it was drying? Don't you know to check your pockets before you do the wash?
Come on, I'm a bachelor. You're expecting way too much from me.
I feel that.
Guess we should check the inn next.
Dial is me for real. They're the best kind of goose chase. With a long, rich history in the series. 'Twas not that long ago that I had Cress and his friends chasing Edward Morrison hither and yon. All about the world of Tales of Fantasia. Yeah, that's right, Grail. Dial, if anything, knows how to play the longest game. Speaking of mastermind antagonists. Alright, back to the inn. This is funny. I'm going to bet this is what it is. I think the side quests are just sufficiently weirdly configured that having one going on in an inn blocked out the other. Yeah, because see, now it looks like we can interact with the dogs. Maybe? Oh, no. It's the key.
This must be the key.
Yay! You found it!
This has got to just be
I knew you'd
overriding
get to it,
Velvet's side
Eleanor.
quest, I'll bet.
You said the chest was floating on an iceberg, right? I'd say that's our next stop.
You hold on to the key, Kamoana. Just make sure you don't drop it, okay?
Okay.
To the ice! I hope there aren't any vicious predators there who feed on airsick creatures. Can you tell I've been too absolutely submerged in Tales of Vesperia for weeks?
It opened! It opened!
Good job, Kamoana.
All right, so what's inside?
Don't you remember? It's supposed to be a secret.
It's one of my mom's recipes. She wrote it down for me so that I could fix it myself when I got older.
Oh.
That sounds like something really precious. Are you sure you want to share it with us?
Even sidetracked, we still arrive back at cooking and food. It's all connected.
Mom, but you all saved me when I needed you, and I really want to thank you, so it's okay. Thanks, everyone.
You're welcome, Kamoana.
It's a recipe for mabo curry that my mom came up with just for me. It's the best in the whole wide world.
It looks delicious.
You better have some too, Velvet. You go out there and win. Medissa and me will be cheering you on.
Yeah, I won't back down. I promise.
Love it. I'm fairly sure I said this way, way earlier in the playthrough, but as much as we've gone back and forth on the relative merits and dismerits of the skit-based storytelling, I do really love, especially seeing this in contrast with some of the older games, the skits that allow for conversations that include people from outside the party, like the Therians, as opposed to the old games that really just focused on the party in the skits. It's nice to have that added little bit of diversity. Especially since skits are such a standardized language for party interactions. I think, you know, as an old Tales player coming into these newer games, it's a cool way of making you feel like some of those characters who are like escorted by the party rather than one of the playable characters, like the other Therians, are really, you know, part of the family and part of the party in that conversational way.
Our scout ship has returned. Well done. I'd expect no less from Ifrit's crew.
What's the old saying, Grail? All good writing is plagiarism or theft or something?
Show him how Ifrit's crew can sail.
It's not stealing, it's an homage. That's the trick. Hey, Pottery. Welcome back, my friend. Happy Friday night. Great to see you. I've been thinking about you today as I've been reflecting on repeat and wrapping up my disquisition on Tales of Vesperia. Excited to get it into your hands this coming week. We're always happy to have you for exactly as long as you're around, Pottery. No worries about that. Yep, that's exactly what it was. That other side quest was blocking out our doggy friends. Wow. It was worth it. And at least the side quests were nominally related. Well, at least half of it is about a game that you know like the back of your hand and quite love. So hopefully it can be like a nice little dessert or break between all your other stuff as opposed to work. But I'll be in the editing lab this weekend trying to make sure it is a pleasurable reading experience as opposed to something that merely overwhelms. No, we haven't decided on the next game yet, Padre, although I will take that opportunity to spam the chat again because I am still soliciting everyone. What I said was hoping to get this study out Monday or Tuesday, and then contemporaneously with that, I'm hoping we'll be able to announce and plan the next game that we're going to do. So soon, but probably on the other side of this weekend. That's my bet.
Be careful. Orthy and Russ are usually nice, but, well...
I know. I killed their master. I'm not expecting them to be friendly. There's no poison in this. I promise. I just want you guys to listen to something I have to say. This quiche was known as my sister's culinary specialty. Everyone in my family always looked forward to it. You have to knead the dough in a special way, and use 2 types of cheese for it to turn out right. The trick to making sure that it's perfect is carefully balancing the eggs and cream, and making sure to remove any moisture from the fillings.
Why are you telling them all this?
I promised Nico that I would teach her the recipe one day.
Oh, wow.
You two have to make sure to pass it on to her now, okay? I won't be going to where Nico is.
Velvet.
Please, don't say anything. Nico won't be able to rest in peace if people try to console me.
Man. Wow. This game, it knows how to hit you in the feels, and it knows how to tie all the way back to the beginning. As you said, Grail, yeah, I remember that moment too, in ways that feel really earned and warranted. Another great example too, even in relation to the other side quests that we've been doing, of something I talked about before in terms of Edna's side quest to kill Eisen in Tales of Berseria, where it's so concerned with the act of simply making good on a promise that once that promise is fulfilled, there's really nothing further that can be said about it. Like, in another context or another game, that side quest would be talked to death, but all that was left at the end was that gesture of Velvet's to pass on that recipe to those dogs. Ugh. And, let it be said, this Tale series and the way that it treats animals and dogs, I mean, fantastic. All the more on my mind, obviously, because as I said, I've been meditating on repeat today, but it's an apt context in which to be doing that.
Wow, Kamoana. I see you've taught Orthy and Russ a lot of tricks. That ain't easy by any stretch. Great job.
Yeah, all my hard work is playing off.
Paying off, you mean?
I guess so, huh?
What all have you taught them? What's normal? Shake and sit and fetch, right?
When I tell them to shake, they shake each other's paws.
Yeah, I feel like even going through a playthrough of a game for like the 10th or 15th time is enough to melt my mind. I haven't done that in a long time.
With those skills, you could probably become the best trainer in all of Midgand.
I can't take such a challenge lightly, you know. Bienfu would be nowhere without all the training I put him through. I won't have some newbie stealing my thunder.
Well, I don't plan on losing to you either.
I think I smell a challenge brewing. What else have you taught them, Kamoana?
If you throw a bone, they'll both chomp down on it and eat it.
Well, Bienfu can take bones and throw them in the garbage.
I'm just cleaning up after you eat.
I tell them to say sorry, and Orthy puts his paw on my lap and looks all sad, while Russ tries to comfort him.
Bienfu has such strong resolve that he never apologizes, no matter how much I yell at him.
Bien.
Oh, and the boys can also howl along whenever I sing.
Bienfu howls too, just punish him.
They can greet people normally too, not just with barking. Like, they can say, hello.
Bienfu, tongue twister. Which would a witch would which be which if a witch would which could be which would?
It was pretty good.
She sells sea spells on the seashore. The spells she sells are surely sea spells. So if she sells spells on the seashore, I'm sure she sells seashore spells.
Jesus Christ.
Keep going.
Wonder how many takes they had to do of that.
Sorceress is six. She bien. Ow, ow, ow. I bit my tongue.
You almost made it. How could you mess up at the end? That's the easiest part of the whole thing.
I'm sorry, Miss Mogulu. I got careless at the end. Just please don't leave me. Ow.
We can have that discussion later. Anyway, Kamoana, what do you think? That's pretty quality training, wouldn't you say?
I think you need to work on loving and trusting each
Yeah,
other.
I hope so too. I could see it going either way. Evie can do a few tricks. I can see her looking at me. She knows I'm talking about her. She knows how to shake and touch things with her nose and go left and right, things like that. The biggest trick is she hates other dogs, so I'm trying to train her to be okay with them and be excited about seeing them as opposed to wanting to tear them limb from limb. All right. I can kind of get Evie to do a high five. That's a hard one for her. I forget if I've told the stream this in the past, but her favorite game is what I call reverse fetch, because as opposed to normal dogs who will play fetch, and it's very fun and easy, what Evie will do is she will take her favorite toy and she'll put it somewhere she can't reach it, like underneath my bureau or the couch or something like that. And then she'll grumble at it and bark at me until I get it for her. And that's the whole game, getting Dad to fetch for her. All right, now let's do Laphicet's quest after that diversion. A great diversion, though. Man, I really enjoyed that. Okay, so now we are going to Port Cadnix, I think, if I clocked the point at which we fell off of this side quest correctly. And we are heading through the tunnels to Kuragane's Forge. Alright. Hopefully it's not too much of a puzzle to find our way back to the forge. So I don't remember exactly where in the tunnel system that was. I imagine it won't be that hard to find. Hey, don't say that until we've done it, Grail. His could easily be great in a way that's true to his character. I'm also not sure, Grail. You were representing it as though one has to beat all of the Code Red demons in order to see Rokurou's side quest all the way through, but at least the way the guide I found was written, it doesn't sound like that's the case. So we'll do Laphicet's first, but I'm interested to see how that's borne out. If we have to, I mean, we certainly will, but I was just curious. Oh, we don't have the geoboard yet. That's annoying. Well, at least we know in that case that that's not the way we need to go. Yeah, I don't think that's how it works. I think you have to at least start the Code Red hunts to be able to like unlock the events that kick it off, but I don't think it's gated by beating them all. It would still be fun to beat them all, assuming that we can get through that one that resists everything, but nice to know that we'll be able to hopefully enjoy the outcome of Rokurou's character development without having to do that. Not a forge. You'd think they would at least mark the fella's forge on the map. And it's not as if we can ask him anymore, sword that he is.
I'll finish this quick.
You're not hurt, are you?
No.
Kurigane's workshop. There it is. All right. It is on the map. We were just in the wrong part of the map. I guess if we're being really charitable, it does add to the pirate adventure theme of it all for the charting of the areas to be somewhat hard to interpret and navigate at a glance. Here, there be dragons and all that. Well, yeah, Gray will also be, I'll be interested to see where things land after we've seen his side content, because I think there's an interesting sense in which, like, I would say, even based on what we've seen of Rokurou in terms of how he concludes the main story, I would say he does have a character development arc, but it's that interesting sort of anti-arc where he realizes that, like, rather than needing to overcome anything, like, his grudge against his brother and this essence of him as a war demon is just part of who he is. It's that whole realization after Laphicet becomes Mautelis that he doesn't need to turn back into a human because he's authentically a war demon, right? So I like that as a kind of subversive model for character development, of realizing, oh, actually, no, the insight that you needed was just to recognize that you were okay with being who you were the whole time.
This must be Longdow's dust. The ingredient Vidal's Omega elixir recipe calls for.
I can't believe you actually found it.
We have to go tell Vidal. Maybe he's been able to translate the rest of the list.
Yeah.
All right. The long and winding road.
Wow! Is that Longdow's dust? That's one of the Omega Elixir ingredients! You found it! You really found it!
Yeah, it's proof your research is right.
Thanks! I've just managed to translate the description of the second ingredient. Here, take this and... Whoa.
What's wrong? Your face is red.
Hey, you're burning up.
It's fine. I'm pretty much always running a fever.
That makes it even worse. We need to get you home so you can rest up.
But I'm still translating the recipe.
You heard me.
Alright. She's scary. Is she your sister or something, Laphicet?
Well, it's kind of a long story.
In a cosmic sort of way.
Well, you seem to have a pretty complicated life. Do you think he's always that sick?
Wouldn't surprise me. I was weak when I was a kid, too.
He's probably been like this since he was born. That must be why his parents named him Vidal. It means to live.
Huh. I never thought about that.
Laphicet is like that too. It means one who lives.
One who lives.
And he wants to be an explorer when he grows up. I feel sorry for him.
But if he drinks the Omega Elixir, I think he can get better. When he sets off on his adventures, will you let him aboard the Von Eltia, Eisen?
I suppose I could cut him a deal.
You'd charge him?
I'm a pirate, kid. Comes with the territory. But I promise you, I won't charge him too much.
I suppose that'll have to do.
One who lives. I did not know that Laphicet's name had meaning behind it.
Didn't mean much in the end. I poured my soul into getting him through. But he's still dead all the same. Hope. What a waste.
You really think it was pointless?
What else am I supposed to think? It won't bring him back.
They could be derived from different languages in the World Grail. Because remember, at least they have the modern tongue, which I think was given a name earlier in the game, and the ancient tongue. So it's possible that it's just a multilingual world, the Desolation. And there was Grimoire's book on a Nominat, which had to be translated. I don't remember whether that was the ancient tongue or some third, more esoteric language. So it's possible they're just derived from different roots. Yeah, that's what my guess would be, pottery. All right, next. Where we go next? All right, we're going to Helives. Yeah, I don't think we've gotten any explanations within the game for what Celica or Velvet, if anything, are meant to mean within the language of the world, unless I'm forgetting. Which is interesting all the more so because that does seem to be a theme along with names in the game more broadly. Like we obviously just got that explanation of Laphicet's name, and we got the explanation of Eleanor's name, and even the origin and inspiration of it last time with her side quest. That's interesting to not have that for them. Huh,
elixir.
that was an easy one,
A
comparatively
unicorn
speaking.
horn, huh?
Hey! Whoa! Careful with that! If anyone other than a maiden of pure heart touches a unicorn horn, it loses all its power!
The goddess Martell wants to know your location.
Pure of heart.
That's a pity. Nobody here fits that description.
I beg your pardon. Just what kind of woman do you think I am?
Well, when I think of a pure maiden, I think of a princess who's never lifted anything heavier than a pair of chopsticks her whole life.
Your view of women is completely messed up.
Is it?
Well, personally, I'd liken myself to a maiden who's maxed out her purity stat by her third playthrough. But I'll defer to Velvet.
Oh, the meta. Oh no, the meta.
Why don't you carry it?
Me? Are you sure that's okay?
Honestly, I don't know. But you're the one who wants to make this Omega Elixir. If you can't get the ingredients yourself, I don't see much point in keeping this up.
Yeah, you're right.
Don't worry about it, kid. Magilou's just quoting some old wives' tale. Unicorn horns are actually just tusks from a kind of whale called a narwhal.
Why didn't you say that sooner?
Eisen, you spoil sport! I totally had them on the hook!
At least we've established that Magilou wouldn't be able to hold a real unicorn's horn.
Well, for now, let's report our success to Vidal.
Yeah, I wonder, Pottery, like, I know that so often names in the Tales games, even, you know, not names of characters, but names of concepts and such, will be derived from theological or philosophical concepts or just naming traditions in the real world. But when names in a Tales game are given specific meaning, I wonder, never bother to look up, or rarely bother to look up, whether that's the same as the name's derivation in our actual language. So I was doing that with Eleanor right now as I was saying that. Kind of similar. Well, so this is interesting. And again, I wonder how this was translated in terms of whether it has a different emphasis in the Japanese. But so, at least on a cursory lookup of Eleanor's name, which I think was translated as, or given the meaning and origin of bringer of light or something like that in Tales of Berseria, we have like a few different potential meanings, but one is like a Hebrew derivation that's much more theological. The first thing that comes up is saying God is my light or God is my candle, but you also have more generically something like shining light, which seems pretty similar, and then also something like ancient north, which is interesting in terms of that, like the moral compass, which also seems to be an aspect of Eleanor. So yeah, all the more interesting. I think it dovetails pretty nicely with something that we talked about way back in Tales of Symphonia in terms of characters in Tales games very oftentimes self-consciously deciding what they want to treat as symbols and what they want the symbology to be. Because of course, you know, you're using language, you're using names in these games, and those names, you know, unless they're invented out of nothing, have real world corollaries and meanings derived from them. And so sometimes, you know, depending on the game and its overall semantics, in some cases, perhaps it makes sense to fall back on those real world meanings. And then in some cases, maybe those meanings can be further specified or even overridden by what people in the world want to ascribe as meaning to those names. Which is perhaps the case of the specification that we get with something like Eleanor and Laphicet. I don't know, I haven't looked that one up, but that would be interesting to do a little quick research on too. Yeah, good question, Grail. See, in something like Vesperia, we have a clear-cut answer to that with Namco Bandai Isle, but I don't think there's a comparable location in Berseria as far as we've discovered. I know, Velvet, and for the unusual nature of it, I think that's part of what has me interested going down this rabbit hole of of the hermeneutics and semantics of naming. Because you're right, it's not not as normal as something like Lloyd or Luke, which to me invites the question of how it is that these characters think about naming and the meaning thereof.
Hey, Videl, we found another one of the ingredients.
Thanks.
Have you figured out any of the remaining ones?
Yeah, but only one of them.
Are you okay?
I played Tales of Berseria once. Once was
I
enough.
found something else in the book. The Omega Elixir was originally concocted as a way to cure the 12-year sickness.
The 12-year sickness?
That's where I figured that was
incurable
going.
disease. Every 12 days, you break out in a fever. Each fever is just a bit worse than the one before it. And when you turn 12, you die.
That's just like what Laphicet had.
Oh, I know, Pottery. I read that, and then I elected
Symptoms
to
are
not
an
do it.
exact match. And well, my 12th birthday is coming up.
Videl, don't worry. I'll get you the other ingredients. We can make the Omega Elixir together.
It's no use. There's no way you can get them all in time. And even if you did, I'm not sure I can.
Well, it depends on what kind of strength you're talking about.
We can do it. When there's a will, there's a
I went down plenty of other rabbit holes, so
You're not the one who's
different
sick.
strokes.
You get to travel across the world. You get to see all kinds of incredible things.
Videl.
Just go. Leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anybody right now.
Laphicet, you don't have to feel so bad. It's okay. Thanks, Eleanor. But Videl's right. I hadn't even considered his point of view. But you were just trying to be nice. Well, even if he doesn't want me to interfere with him, I still want to make that Omega Elixir. He's a friend, and he's in pain. I want to help him.
Yeah, you're right. I'll help you out too. Keep basking in them sunshine and rainbows, kids. But as far as anyone knows, there's not one case in all of recorded history of anyone who has it surviving.
The 12-year sickness. We saw this in the Earthen Historia.
Yeah, my little brother had it too. He knew it. That's why he asked Artorius to.
What else could he do? He had no hope against that disease.
That's probably true. But that doesn't exactly help dull my sorrow. The opposite, actually. If I forgot that feeling, well, my brother deserves far better than that.
You're strong, Velvet. You know that?
All right, next we're going to the Aldina Plains. What was the easiest way back to the Aldina Plains? Was that... I have Stoneberry in my head. Is Aaron right, or is he crazy? Ha! Got it in one! How many hours did it take me to get a rough intuition about the way this game's world is laid out? Okay, we're going to Gallus Lake Road, which is all the way over there. Awesome, alright. Plan comes together. Can we quick jump there? No, we can't do that. Oh, we have the geo board for this area. We're sitting pretty. Wait, is this real? Is Edge Maverick the name of a JRPG character? What sorry game is that from? That's one I don't think I've heard a single time in my sorry little life. Asked and answered. I wouldn't put that in the column of reasons for Aaron to play those games, though you've given me others. Yeah, crow certainly I like for the continuity with the bird symbolism. I feel like maybe without thinking about it more, the only insight I can get into Velvet is... No, Velvet is a standard example of a very soft sort of fabric. So perhaps there's something interesting in the idea, which seems to be borne out in her character, that for all of the edge and abrasiveness to her personality, at the end of the day, it's that kind of fierce, direct, intimate connection with her emotions that also allows her to be kind and engaged with humanity in the way that the Abbey can't understand or get behind. Alright. We want to head through the northwest exit to search the northern section for the next ingredient. Oh, yeah, I see it on the map. Perfect. Right. Northwest. Don't agree with that, Grail. I love the name Link, not just for the thematic content and symbolism, but I think it's just a great, simple, one of those monosyllabic names. A nice truncation of Lincoln. I'm also biased because I had a cat named Link, whom, unsurprisingly, I named after the character from The Legend of Zelda, but big fan of that. Yeah, Pottery, I don't know. I don't really have a barometer for how hot that take is. Because I do feel like there's a reason that most of the, especially more recent Final Fantasy VII media has really just gone with Cloud, and there's not a lot of emphasis on his last name, because I do think his last name is kind of the relic of earlier naming conventions that are... let's say, a little less naturalistically symbolic and a little more overt in a way that pulls you away from the content of the story and the characters.
Beg, another ingredient for the Omega Elixir.
All right, let's hurry and get this back to Vidal.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair on a Tales of Praxis stream, at least. Like, we're allowed to appreciate Final Fantasy VII without there being a Kool-Aid about it. And also, I don't even think... I think it's more of a hot take to say that it's Final Fantasy VII Kool-Aid and you can only love Final Fantasy VII, because I think, like, while I and so many people have a lot of love for Final Fantasy VII in the series, I think especially in a post-remake world, a lot of people have soured on it by saying, oh, I have this boogeyman notion of Nomura in my head, and Nomura is putting all of his weird, complicated meta tendrils into Final Fantasy VII to make it confusing and bad and weird, which, to be clear, I think is a very confused and unfair and inaccurate take, but I think that's a big part of the modern popular conception of it. We don't care about the rest of the world, Pottery. We're carving out our own special mode of engagement and discourse with the games. It's the only one that matters, but everyone is welcome to it, which is the important thing. I don't know about that, Grail. I've known real people named Link, and we might have like an unnatural bias toward it just because of our gamer nature, but it's also just a name. Like, there are actual people with that name that go through life without being referred to as a Legend of Zelda character.
I'm not sure I've ever seen Laphicet so animated.
He's just not one to give up easily. I honestly couldn't tell you where he gets it from.
Really? Well, I think you and Laphicet are actually rather similar.
You can't be serious.
Yeah, that's a good point, Grail. I think God bless the chat and the mode of engagement. I don't think I've seen a take yet that has made me feel as though we need to revoke this person's gamer card or literacy card. But I suppose it's a bit of a self-selecting adventure, isn't it? In the best of ways. All right, now we're going back to Renede, I assume. Even that pottery, we can talk our way into it by saying, as we've said in the past, like, it's so interestingly bad that thinking about it is a valuable experience, and that ought to merit its being good, at least in that particular context. Which, granted, I don't think is what many other people mean when they talk about it being good or bad, but that's the way that matters. And that's why we're talking about it on Tales of Praxis.
You're Laphicet, right?
Yes. Who are you?
I'm Vidal's mom. He wanted me to give you this note.
It's the fourth ingredient. What happened to Vidal?
He has a high fever and can't move right now.
That's true, Grail. That would probably get you thrown out.
The 12-year sickness.
It can't be.
All the other kids in town avoid Vidal because they're scared of the disease. But you chose to be his friend. I want to thank you for that. Vidal always perks up when he talks about you.
Miss Vidal's mom? I know this
It's
is
Vidal's
sudden,
mom.
but can I borrow his book? If we can figure out the last ingredient, we can make medicine that'll cure him. I don't care what it takes. I'll decipher it myself and...
That sounds like it could be really dangerous. I can't let Vidal's friends put themselves at risk like that. Besides, I've already lent the book to someone else. I've been prepared for this day ever since I learned he had the 12-year sickness. I'm sorry, Vidal. I'm sorry I couldn't give you a healthy life.
What's the plan, Laphicet? Do you still intend to look for that last ingredient?
Why bother? Time's short and we're out of leads.
I know it's sad, but there's nothing we can do. Vidal was fated for this end from the start.
Is there really nothing we can do?
Don't feel guilty. None of this is your fault. You've been a good friend to him. Besides, the Omega Elixir is a fool's errand anyway.
I feel like that's on brand for this game and story, though, Grail, right? Like, invent any reason to make someone a pariah, even if there's no real risk to you. Turn the idea of malevolence into this crazy demon blight as a means of hegemonic control and authoritarianism, and so on and so forth.
How could you say that?
Jeez, Velvet. Even I'd have tried to soften that one.
What's there to be gained from being less direct? Sure, it might hurt now, but in time, it will be just another memory. A sad memory you'll keep tucked away for when you need it.
How can you talk like that? Vidal's still alive! And what about all of his research? The Omega Elixir is real! I'm sure of it! I'm not ready to give up!
Then stop talking about it and keep on looking.
You mean it?
Once you've lost him, it'll be too late. No matter how sorry you feel, no matter how deeply you regret, regrets don't change into memories. They hang over you like a living nightmare.
Wow,
but you
that's a
haven't
pretty good
lost
line.
your friend yet, or your hope.
Yeah.
Then hold on to it as tightly as you can.
Okay. I'm going to find that fourth ingredient. Let's take another look at the clues in Vidal's notes.
Oh, I absolutely think so, Grail. I mean, I don't think we had this explicit conversation actually at the end of the main story, but I think part of what is really, really interesting to me about the idea of Tales of Berseria, and one of the reasons that I think it invites a replay after you're done with it, especially if you've played Tales of Zestiria, is it really is like the personal and moral education of Nautilus, the seraph who would bless the world and empower everyone else to find their own path. So I think that, as much as anything, is what has me really interested and engaged with Laphicet's side quest, because I feel like it has to directly relate to Nautilus's philosophy after that. Pottery, great to see you, my friend. Hey, you have a great weekend, okay? Think well, game well. Best of luck with the move and work and everything, and hope we get some time to chat about the Destiny and Vesperia study this coming week as well. Go wherever pots go. I love that, Grail. All right. Where are we off to next? Alright, we're off to Stonebury, and then to the northern exit in Aldina to reach Daval Forest. Right. These names! Come da Sum, come da Val. It's a Friday stream, help me! It is very satisfying through the side quests to be unwinding and discovering those final few places on the map to which we never actually went in the main story. That's an interesting sort of design language for a JRPG and a Tales game as well. The idea that there are some places in the worlds to which the party will literally never go if you only do the main quest. But require those optional adventures to explore. I wonder if we went back and looked at all the Tales games, if that's a typical thing for them, because my gut, just thinking about it now, and not like actually going back and cataloging them all, says that it's pretty unusual, and usually in a Tales game, even if you don't spend a lot of time in every area, you end up running into pretty much all of them in one way or another over the course of the main story, but maybe that's a mischaracterization. That strikes me as a really salient and interesting observation, Grail. The idea that malevolence has to do so directly with memories. And the idea that in many cases, part of what creates that friction between what you believe and what you do in the real world is sort of an inability or unwillingness to process and come to grips with the content of your memories. But man, that line Velvet had, what was it? That regrets don't turn into memories, they just hang over you and torment you or something like that. It was really poetic. That's one that I'm going to have to go back to and write down. That really did feel like, well, like what you just said, Grail. A really nice distillation of a lot of the main themes of the game in a really simple moment. What the fuck? Alright.
Take a look at this.
Yeah, and I suppose put that way, Grail, it's maybe more common a design language than I made it out to be. The idea that some areas just are inaccessible until the post-game. So I feel like that's something pretty standard. Necropolis of Nostalgia comes to mind off the top of my head. And stuff like Dist's whole research area in Tales of the Abyss. Fuck you, Grail. You say smart stuff all the time. My friend Grail's not being nice to himself tonight. We're gonna have to bully him into having some more self-respect. Get ready to be lovingly cyberbullied, Grail. That's the real message of Tales of Berseria. We solved it. It only took us 27 streams, but we solved it.
It's over, right?
The real lessons learned are the bullying moments we had along the way. And they never saw Grail again. No, please, perish the thought. Alright, I guess I should look at where we're actually going since we have this nonsense mist hanging out. Alright, we went west. South. Ah! Amazing. We've encountered a side quest that has a whole novel puzzle associated with it. That's fun. And something I was not expecting. Leaves me hoping that the payoff will be all the more rewarding. And notice, a puzzle which again takes as a central element of it, the act of eating. I feel like I need to do like a tongue-in-cheek Gordon Ramsay culinary review analysis of the themes of Tales of Berseria.
This fight is over.
Well, come on. I mean, they can't exactly rampage off the paths. What do you think they are? Some group of uncouth demons? And... oh, wait. Bad example. Now see, that's an analysis title that would at least get a lot of clicks. I cooked and tried all of the recipes in Tales of Berseria, and this is how many times I got food poisoning. All the times. That's the answer when you click through. I got food poisoning 100% of the times.
I'll show you the beauty of my skill. They were nothing.
Devour! My review. It was not worth it. This is live footage for my funeral talking about why. Sounds like it could be an I think you should leave sketch. Nobody asked for it, and it was not a good idea, and I'm mad about it.
Not bad.
You too.
Oh, what's this? Are we halfway through the stream? Time for Aaron to spam a link. If you're hanging out and care enough about Tales of Praxis to be invested in the live party and somehow still haven't voted on which game you want us to venture through next, this is the time. We're going to make our decision this coming week. We will, at some point, believe it or not, run out of Tales of Berseria content, even though that seems like an impossible feat right now. So make your voice heard if you haven't already.
I'll finish this now.
Victory is ours.
That's a great meme, Grail. That's like, oh, there's this show that I really enjoyed, which was totally robbed because it only had, I think it got a second season, but it only had 2, and it ended on a cliffhanger because it was canceled, and it should have run for longer. called Friends from College on Netflix. But one of the great gags from that is that at one point in it, this like side character who's part of this extreme sports crew that basically just runs around New York City and base jumps off stuff. Surprise, surprise, one of the people in that party dies. And they have like a sponsored funeral for him where basically the entire funeral is just like sponsored content for Mountain Dew Code Red. And it's the funniest nonsense. I don't know if we should eat this. Why not? We're here. I'm gonna say it's worth eating. I'm gonna hope you're exaggerating, Grail, because I haven't actually looked at the stream count, but this is our, third stream in the post-game? I know what you're saying, but I don't think the third act was that short. Definitely a worthy post-game, though. Like we were saying the other time, so nice to just have these little, like, short story adventures that enrich our understanding of the characters so much. So we're gonna have to find the Geoboard Earth Pulse to be able to get to that Code Red demon. Can keep an eye out for that. Doesn't look like it's on this map. Ah, so maybe that's it, Grail. Yes, it's probably that you have spent more time in the post-game than in the third act, because you were camping. I forgot about that. I wouldn't know. I gave up on Legendia when it came time for that. Although maybe that'll be an interesting model if after spending all the time in this kind of post-game, I then go back to Legendia after this. Maybe that's reason for me to prioritize Legendia next. Because I know that's what was missing for me at the time that I first played Legendia, just a framework for wrapping my head around what it was that it was trying to do. I also, this is so not the kind of thing that would hold me back these days, but I think I was really hurt by the main story being voiced and then those, the character stories afterwards being either not voiced or only partly voiced. It's so long ago now that I don't remember, but that was one of those things that just, especially given that I didn't like the main story that much, kind of rubbed me the wrong way and pushed me off of it. Yeah, you'd know more about it than I would, though. Yeah, there you go. That makes sense. Yeah, it seems like I definitely made my bet in terms of which game is going to muscle out the poll. So now it's just a question of, will I support the will of the democracy, like brave Vesperia, or will I impose my iron will and do something totally different, like Kronos? There's no middle ground. Those are the only two possibilities. Yeah, we'll see. Who knows? It's such a niche poll that it wouldn't take a lot for the tides of it to change either. Alright, so now I think we can get out the east side of the map. There was yellow fog there, if I remember correctly. It is a nice mirror to the rest of the structure of this side quest, though. The idea that it initially was comparatively so easy to find the ingredients back when there was also the specter of hope for being able to save the kid. And then once that hope goes away and Laphicet just decides to continue with his effort to save him, just past the point of reason through sheer force of will. We also have to go to this whole optional dungeon with puzzles and new areas and everything like that in order to find the next ingredient.
Your style is really unique.
Yeah, absolutely, Grail. No, and I appreciate the poll for that. I think it's really great data in terms of what people are interested in either way, so I'm really grateful for that. I think for me, it mostly comes down to just what we were talking about last time in terms of what kind of experience do we want the stream to be? Do we want it to be something that's more didactic and not rehearsed, but sort of thought through in terms of being something that Aaron has played and thought about and published on very, very recently, or something that is either further back in Aaron's memory or a new experience for him. And I'm going to take the long weekend beyond finishing and publishing this article to just spend some time thinking about that, because I'm not quite sure what the answer is yet. But whatever we end up with, it'll be good. Oh, yes, okay, we have the geoboard now, so we can also go back and get that Code Red demon, but let's keep going this way for the moment, see what we can see. My skills. Oh, Grail, I don't want to big up my skills too much. I will say, and I know I'm jinxing myself by saying this, but I think I said it before, I was kind of remarkably surprised at my facility with the gameplay system when I replayed it on the 3DS a few months ago, because I was able, with very little effort, to chug through, I think, a full hard playthrough with Nebula and everything like that. I just really enjoyed it. Like, I didn't feel overwhelmed by it in the way that I do with some hard difficulties in some games. I do feel like I benefit from it being, and maybe this is just because I've spent comparatively more time thinking about the world and the way that not only the characters, but also the gameplay mechanics and fields of phonons and everything tie into it. But I feel like I benefit from having the sense that I understand the logic of the battle system, and that definitely helps me, I think, with the execution of it. But I don't know. As you know, I am also the first to admit that Aaron does not have a lot of technical facility with games. He'll write and theorize circles around Miyazaki's games, but that doesn't make him an ace in the hole in your Elden Ring party. Man, not to derail the stream, but it's a Friday stream, I guess. Speaking of Elden Ring, saw the news that I think one of the producers or someone else from Bamco told someone that the DLC is going to be coming soon, because we still don't have a date on it or anything, but that's got me very, very excited. That's going to be like Christmas whenever that comes. Yeah, and between that and Beyond the Dawn, it's an embarrassment of DLC riches. Okay, I think I lost track of the next kind of smoke. I'm gonna hope that yellow is what we need to overcome. Go from there. Yeah, completely agree, Grail. I felt exactly the same way working through it. It truly feels like just refinement and improvement upon the underlying system while also adding a lot of touches that make sense for molding that system to the particulars of a world, like we talked about a while ago. Hard to pull that off consistently game after game and world after world, but I don't know. I feel like so far in terms of the games that I've played and replayed for Tales of Praxis, the Tales games have a pretty good batting average when it comes to that. Even with the systems we don't love, right? Like, I know, God knows, everyone knows we've had our gripes about Berseria and Zesteria's combat systems, but I think we've all routinely agreed that in terms of how the systems are structured, they do a really nice job of thematically mirroring and evoking the content of the story. With the armorization and even the the independent wills and sort of irrational nature of the characters in Berseria and everything such as that.
An exorcist. What's he doing here?
Yeah, we can dive into those in more depth once we get to those games for sure, Grail.
Tree leaf.
Excited about all of
For
those.
the Omega Elixir.
You know of the Omega Elixir?
A world tree leaf?
No ordinary travelers.
I think you can
Mythos
feel
wants
that
to know
just
your
by looking
location.
at us.
He seems wary of us. Should we take it by force?
No, we'd be at a disadvantage. He looks strong.
I could try talking to him.
Wait, let me try.
All right, Laphie. Do what you need to.
Please, sir, may we have that? We need it badly.
Sorry, kid. I've only this one. You're so young. Do you really think you can make an Omega Elixir?
Yeah, it is hard to adjust to a
Sick.
world
If
without
there's
overlimit.
anything
I feel
can do
that.
to save him, anything at all, I have to try.
Did you already gather the other ingredients?
No, we still don't know what the last one might be. But I'll find it. I swear I will. My friend is suffering too much. I refuse to give up on him.
Take it.
Are you certain? Don't you need this as well?
I'm an exorcist. Talking to you, well, we're supposed to put the needs of others ahead of our own. You think not of yourself. I would be a poor model were I to deprive you in your time of need.
Thank you.
By the way, young one, perhaps this will help your cause. I've been studying an old book, and it would seem that the final ingredient is a Moloch's prayers.
Love it.
Unfortunately, thanks to the Lord of Calamity, the Abbey's been losing a good number of Malachim. I've managed to be exceedingly lucky and mine is still okay, but
I know the one good exorcist in the world besides Eleanor.
he will not give me his prayers.
Although I guess, in a sense, this kind of is the model of a good exorcist even more so than Eleanor, because he happens to be, at least at first glance, morally good and also good as an exorcist. Whereas Eleanor, obviously, while being morally good, no longer fits the model of the exorcist.
Even when I command him to. Perhaps you will succeed. I have not faltered in my duties as an exorcist. The world must come before my family. I'm so sorry, Vidal.
Pick up the phone. I was about to call that. Oh, really touching.
Now that we know what the last ingredient is, there's just one thing left to do.
Hey! I think that might have been Vidal's dad.
Well, now that you mention it, Vidal did say that his dad was an exorcist.
Who would have guessed?
If he was the one who borrowed the book from Vidal's mother, that would explain how he got here.
Damn, though, that's cold. Doesn't that mean he was willing to give up on his son? How could he place more value in the Abbey's teachings than on his own son's life? I think he made the rational decision. Remember, he felt that there was no way he could get the last ingredient for himself, so... Yeah, okay, sure, logic. Kids ain't logical. How do you think Vidal would have taken this?
I'm sure he'd be terribly hurt.
Look at it like this. That guy clearly went to a lot of trouble to decipher the book. He would have faced considerable dangers just to get here.
Exorcists can save the whole world. They have to live their lives conflicted like the rest of us. If everyone lived as selfishly as me, the world would be a wasteland.
A desolation, you might say.
I don't disagree, but he knew what he was doing.
Am I dreaming this? Is Velvet actually defending an exorcist? Pinch me!
I'm only stating the truth. Anyway, if we'd fought, it would have been to the death.
Good thing this ended peacefully.
Fee, I can't tell you what's right in this situation. But if Vidal does die, the sadness will be numbing. I can promise you that.
Yeah, but I think even in sadness, hope can spring to life. As long as you keep living.
Anyway, we've got everything we need. Let's get back to Vidal's house and make the Omega Elixir.
That exorcist said the last ingredient was a Moloch's prayers. That's all it is?
We're in good shape then. We've got Laphicet and Eisen and Bienfu. One of you can surely squeeze out a prayer or two, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that coincidence of journeys makes a decent amount of sense to me, Grail, because, yeah, it's very spread out. There are a lot of places in which people could be, but remember, we were searching for the specific fourth ingredient, the leaf of the world tree for this elixir, and presumably that's also what that exorcist Vidal's dad was doing, which was what brought him here. So I read that at least as, we were converging because we were looking for the same very rare thing in the world, which makes sense. Sort of like you might imagine pirates on the open ocean of the world converging because they're seeking the same kind of treasure, which is a nice mirror. These controllers are tanking more and more. I'm loving this by the way, because especially after that last conversation, I feel like I have a sense of where this side quest is going in terms of the moral education of Mount Ellis, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out in the last bit. Because I think they're doing exactly what they needed to with it, unsurprisingly. I had the same thought, unsurprisingly, because I feel like you could say two things about it, or raise two possibilities when one looks at the the overall set of areas in this world. Either we could say that the existence of a world tree leaf implies the existence of a world tree. Of course, whether or not that's the giant Carlon tree or Yggdrasil or a different world tree for a different world is another story. Or because we know from things like the X-Sphere C and also the coin that serves as Eisen's vessel, that the kind of fairy tale lore of a world like that of Tales of Symphonia exists in this world, then it could also be that the special kind of leaf was also just named after an allusion to that lore. So, the way you might call something like Medusa's hair or something for a particular kind of vine or something, right? Even if Medusas are just a creature from a myth that don't actually exist in the world. So I feel like you could explain that in either direction, depending on what your broader analysis wanted. I don't know whether you watched this VOD, but I think it happened while you were away, but I was delighted because I think at least you can lean into the text to support that super ultra headcanon if you really want to, because remember, we have the island of Albane, which of course is a call out to Tales of Fantasia, but also even in the description of the island, it's represented as a civilization with the power to, a continent that houses a civilization with the power to transcend time and space. And so, I think if you wanted to read it in this way, that at least gives you some kind of textual foundation for the idea that there's a basis for transcending time and space within this particular world. And so it wouldn't be outlandish or a reach beyond the text to say that all of these artifacts and relationships in time and space beyond this world, namely those worlds of the other Tales games, do find a way to bleed into this particular world.
Scout ship departing.
That might be a fun super campy analysis to do at some point. Like, how far can we stretch the actual, like, space-time and metaphysical relationships between the different worlds and realities represented in these games? Don't know how much actual traction or insight we'd be able to get, but our journey through Berseria tells me it would probably be more than 0. Alright, we're going back to Renede now. Nope, not Cadnix. Close. Oh, Jesus Christ. Renede. Renede is what I meant. Well, while we're here in this port town, are there any little scenes? No, it doesn't look that way. What about in the, in there? Oh, we have a couple scenes at the end. Might as well. I think if we don't make a point of looking through these towns when we end up in them, we'll probably end up missing a bunch of little scenes that'll add some nice texture. So we might as well do that too.
First mate, sir, I heard an interesting rumor. Apparently Vortigern came under attack in the middle of reconstruction.
That is, as I understand it, the literal meaning of string theory. Jokes! We've got them on the Friday stream.
The place was completely sacked.
Are you serious?
Any idea who did it?
They say it was a single demon. He called himself Lancelot de Capulus and challenged one exorcist in particular to come try.
Lancelot.
Lancelot.
That's Count Capulus's first name.
Ah.
The nobleman they say was kidnapped? Did he turn into a demon? Or is this some kind
We
of...
accidentally picked up Rokurou's side quest.
Any chance you know if the exorcist he wants to fight is Shigure?
Yeah, he seeks a duel with Legate Shigure Rangetsu, or so the rumor goes.
That's the real Count.
That's a bit of a leap.
The Count is a prideful man. But when the Abbey stole his political power, his own former servant Shigure rose to Legate and suddenly outranked him. The disgrace must have been worse than death.
Then the lord your family used to serve was...
That's right.
Yep, another Arthur lore call-out, Grail.
Capulus's were the royal family's hidden dagger. The Rangetsu clan was its blade.
A demon that can wipe out Vortigern is no joke. If we could team up with him, that'd give us a real edge.
That's a real big if for some of us, Isaac.
Well, I think we should see through Laphicet's side quest first, but I'm excited for that one too. Yeah, allusions to characters like Lancelot make me wonder how many other little threads of Arthur lore are woven into Berseria as a kind of prelude to Zisteria, in which Arthur much more obviously looms large. It's another one of those situations where I wish I knew Arthur lore better than I do, because I really have just the most passing understanding of it. And really, the only baseline I have is thanks to Tales of Berseria and the research that I did for that. And I guess Monty Python, but mostly Tales of Berseria.
Next weekend is Bunny Bonanza Saturday.
Bunny Bonanza Saturday? What's that?
I've heard of this. You eat a hearty, healthy meal of rabbit meat to help you get nice and strong.
You eat rabbits?
No, silly. The night of the third Saturday of every month, lonely people go to sleep hugging a rabbit.
Oh.
If you go to sleep with a fuzzy friend in your arms, you're sure to have good dreams.
No, I'm sure I heard that you eat them too.
You must be thinking of Rat Pig Roundup Saturday.
There's a
Wow.
Saturday for rat pigs too?
Yep. On the night of the third Saturday of every month, people who aren't lonely eat rat pigs to get nice and strong.
Makes sense. Rat pigs are great sources of nutrition. An amazing choice for anyone, lonely or not.
The secret to a happy family is Rat Pig Roundup Saturday. That's what I always say.
I feel bad for the rat pigs.
Me too, Laffy. Me too. Fee. I'm sorry. Not Laffy. Fee. Alright, now we're off to Renede.
We're back! Where's Videl?
Oh, it's you, Laphicet. I'm sorry, but Videl's already lost consciousness.
But he's still alive, isn't he? Please, let me see him. Videl, it's me, Laphicet. We have all of the ingredients for the Omega Elixir. I'll prove that your translations were correct, Videl.
just wait.
Laphicet, yes, but not Laffy. That's specifically reserved for Velvet's brother.
He's awake! No, he's just mumbling. That's all he's been saying this whole time.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Laphicet. I'm sorry. I told you to go away.
Oh, Jesus.
I really wanted to talk to you more.
It's fine, really. That doesn't matter now. You're my friend. There's so much of the world you still need to see. You have to get better, so we can go on adventures together, okay? Huh? Is that...
It's the Omega Elixir. So, it wasn't really a Moloch's prayers.
It was their tears.
Sweetheart, you're home.
I am. But I have no right to be here at this point. I chose to do my duty as an exorcist over the welfare of my own dear family. I won't ask for forgiveness. This isn't something that can be forgiven.
Dad?
Oh,
Videl, are you feeling okay?
I wasn't sure if he was going to make it.
He's fine. A generous friend worked hard to prepare the Omega Elixir for him.
The Omega Elixir? Wait, don't tell me your friend is...
You helped him, right? I heard that it was you who told him what the final ingredient was. Thank you, Dad.
No, son. You have no idea. I...
Dad, it's okay. You protected the world in your own way. The one Mom and I live in. The one I want to explore when I get a little older.
Son.
All's well that ends well,
Hard to believe we managed to actually make an Omega Elixir. That's one hell of an accomplishment.
Oh, and here I was anticipating much wailing and gnashing of teeth. Videl turned out to be pretty resilient, huh? Can't you just say good job like a normal person? You're no fun. You did good, kid.
Thanks. But I might have given up if not for Velvet's
A
encouragement.
very heartwarming quest,
All I
yeah.
did was rile you up. I wouldn't call it encouragement.
Not you too, Velvet.
Anyway, that was a noble thing you did, Laphicet. You really held on to your hope all the way through.
Yeah. I just didn't want to give up on Videl. But I don't really think it's worth praising. I haven't felt lost like you have, Velvet. If I had, I don't think I would have been so sure of myself.
Perhaps. But I think you'll still have it in you. Even if you ever do lose something dear.
Huh? Why?
That's just the feeling I get. Look, I'm tired of Eleanor's grumbling, so I thought I'd say something nice for once.
Could you not make this my fault?
Oh, that was so cool. I have a few things to say about that, so we're going to pause for a second. First, I was sitting here thinking, man, I hope that nobody like Grail bullies me and asks which of these character side quests is my favorite, because it'll be an impossible thing to choose. And as I was thinking about that, it occurred to me, I think one of the things that's cool about a Tales game like this that's so focused on the individualism of the characters in the party, similar to Vesperia, because I think a similar thing about the character arcs in Tales of Vesperia is that it really is almost, to me, a microcosm of what is magical about the Tales series, because like I've said on the stream before, jokes and love for Tales of the Abyss aside, I don't think I could ever really do a ranking of the Tales games, because to me they are just such unique and individualistic expressions of very different worlds and stories that are saying their own things. And I feel that way in miniature about each of the characters in this party. where they really are their own stories and worlds in a similar way to what you get with the different Tales games. So I love that. I think it's very special. I'm going to boot Grail from the chat, and then we're going to be right back. No, kidding, obviously. So that's one. Something else I was thinking about, like I said, in terms of the meaning of the quest for Laphicet, in terms of the development of the moral character and commitments of Nautilus, which I think is really cool. It occurred to me, remember, one of the like symbols that we see throughout the story and a motif of Laphicet's is that as he is starting to engage with his abilities to just resonate with the world and sense the earth pulses, the way that we see that pictorially represented is the little like drop of water with the ripples going out, and that's what we see on the screen as he's searching for the earth pulses or feeling their connections as they're searching out the Therians. And so the idea that that kind of ripple on water is Laphicet's mode of engagement in the world, I think then provides a really interesting twist for the context and recontextualization of that, with his tear as the kind of blessing that makes the Omega Elixir possible and heals this individual who's suffering. Because I think that, to me, is a really touching and cool symbol of exactly what it is that Nautilus is able to do by extending his blessing across the world. This idea that the will to heal people, but also the mourning of their potential loss, actually makes their salvation possible. Because what I took, at first pass at least, out of that side quest in terms of what it is that Laphicet learns is the idea that, consistent with what we see at the end of the story, it's not as if you want to make it the case that people never suffer, because as we see across the story of his friend suffering with the sickness and also everyone else reflecting on the things that they've lost, they talk about the meaning that comes out of that suffering and the loss as something that changes you and impacts your view of the world. And Laphicet himself, it's not as if he negates the suffering of the kid, but actually it's exactly the recognition of that suffering that also allows him to recognize, even if this kid's fate seems to be an inescapable sickness and inevitable suffering, I want to save and redeem him from that. So that recognition that then we see Nautilus express at the end of the main story, saying, yeah, I want people to be able to go on their own journeys and make their own mistakes and have their own suffering so that they can figure out who they are and ultimately heal and redeem themselves in the end. So his blessing makes possible the salvation that only comes from redeeming people from the suffering that makes them who they are. I think that's that story, as you were saying, Grail, is a really just touching and sweet way of showing like the human truth at the essence of what would otherwise be just a much more inaccessible mystic concept. This idea, like we were talking about at the end of the main story, of the entire cosmos needing to be grounded by this kind of negative emotion in order to make possible, true human individuality and ultimate redemption, as we see through Soray's arc in Tales of Berseria. So I loved that. It made me feel like I understood Nautilus and what that made possible for the trajectory of the world and human development in it much more clearly and much more personally, which is, the whole idea, and a very Christian idea for a game that is a prequel to a very Christian-inspired game with Christian mythology, of the idea that salvation needs to come first and foremost from personal salvation, right? That whole, again, Christian idea of needing to accept Christ as your personal savior before you can, understand the nature of the world and your place in it and experience redemption. Seems very deeply tied to the idea of what Laphicet is bringing about for this world. Yeah, battle systems, Grail, maybe a different story in terms of which of them are more or less fun to play. I think I could probably, you would have to drag me kicking and screaming even into that conversation, but I would probably be more willing to rank it according to that. Well, yep, to put a button on that, every single one of these side quests so far has absolutely killed the game. I love it. killed the game in terms of being a cut above and beyond in the positive sense. All right, I think we're on to Rokurou's side quest, the last of the character specific ones, and then there's plenty of more stuff that we can maybe clean up on Monday depending on how things go. But I think it'll be nice to get through all of the character side quests this evening. All right, so we heard about Lancelot. Now we're going to go to Lothringen to continue Rokurou's side quest. We might beat the game, Grail, but dude, I don't know. We still got hot spring stuff. We still got cameo and EX dungeon stuff. We might beat the game, but I don't know if we're gonna put anything to bed in terms of Tales of Berseria tonight, once and for all. Which is okay. I think it's nice to be able to take our time with all of its nuances. The folds in its velvet fabric, if you will. That came out sounding worse out loud than in my head. If she were wearing more clothes, it wouldn't have sounded so awful. I want to at least explore it, yes. I'm going to put a flag in the ground and say I want to look into it, simply because I have not previously, and it feels wrong to rap on a Tales game for Tales of Praxis without at least looking into it. If it's insane, we don't need to see it all the way through, but I think it would be nice. Oh, are you talking about just their, like all of their costumes? Yeah, we can do that. Got a regular outfit. Got one without a jacket if you want Velvet to be wearing even fewer articles of clothing. A color variant. It's actually a pretty nice color. Her old school villager outfit. Back when she had been in prison for 3 years. A swimsuit? Sure. God, are there even skins for the Geo board? I shudder to think. Yeah, I remember you saying that, Grail, and the DLC outfit was what, Ruchi's outfit that she gets? I'll have to look that up. I could see that being an aesthetically pleasing choice. And I guess a thematically pleasing one. They both have to kind of wrestle with their place in their world relative to everything that happened with their brother and family relationships that are kind of omnipresent but also just outside their reach. Yeah, it seems like we basically have more or less the same sets for everyone. Rokurou's jacketless outfit is kind of a nice look. Yes, we have his hot spring outfit because we just started that quest, and that was the one we got right away. I think that's the only one we have right now. Yeah, not any especially interesting ones. Eisen without a jacket is a nice clean look too, I like that. Yeah, that makes sense. I was kind of surprised we hadn't unlocked it already. The Exorcist outfit, I mean. If there are any costumes you're interested in that we're not going to naturally stumble upon just by doing the other side quests, let me know. Happy to make a detour. All right. Now then. Oh, mini games. Now that's something I would have to be persuaded to spend time on. Truth be told, I probably have more of an aversion to Tales minigames than is warranted on the whole, but just when there's already so many really thematically interesting and story relevant things to do, and they all sum to so much time, like doing minigames on top of that, they're nice to have, but to feel compelled to do them, I can never get myself that far into it. All right, so we're going to the Eastern Gate roof. All right. The waiter minigames I have actually learned to live with more over time. The Rapide snowboarding one, speaking of Rapide, I thought my brain was going to melt trying to do that. Just the controls made me feel like I was having a stroke. Alright, we're going to go north and east to the eastern rooftop. Fantastic. Boy, this is a throwback. I think this was maybe the second place we visited after Velvet broke out from Titania. Ages and ages ago, in more ways than one. I definitely hulked out at that more than once. My rage took me over. That's one of my least favorite types of minigames because it's the kind of minigame that feels like it should be very easy, but it requires more technical precision than it should. It's like, it's deceptively challenging. And they always find a way where no matter how you go into it and what order you go in, you're always going to forget one ring and run out of time trying to find it. Oh, I remember. I
see you've come, Shigure.
I can't say I did literally every single thing in Vesperia, but I came closer than any human ought to. Padre, I'm looking at you because I think you probably did do every single thing, which no human ought to, period. But yes, that's the only reason I did it. Otherwise, I would not have bothered.
Count Capelus. It's been a long time.
Oh, wait. Is that you, Rokurou? Leave now. You are not the one who I summoned here. I want your brother, the traitor Shigure.
Sir, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Shigure's execution was assigned to me.
Ha! Oh, please. Don't make me laugh. You had your chance. You couldn't even scratch him, you wretched dog. Frankly, I don't need any Rangetsu to do my bidding any longer. Not with the power that I've attained. By devouring everyone in the entire manor.
Venomization.
Punishments myself, with my own hand.
You're the one who devoured the people at the manor? How could you do that?
I never knew humans were so delicious. After I make a meal of you and the rest of those damnable exorcists, this will be my kingdom, my feeding ground.
Welp, it looks like the only thing that got abducted was this guy's conscience.
Yeah, but Grail, you're overlooking the fact that he has a very fancy lance.
Your lord commands you. Wait and be thankful that your blood will stain my blade beside your brother's.
There's no reasoning with this guy.
Wait.
Rokurou?
I refuse. If you simply wanted to eat flesh, then perhaps I wouldn't stop you. But dying to you would make a mockery of the Rangetsu name. Turn your blade on me or my brother and we won't hold back. Not even against an impotent lord.
You! How dare you speak to your master like that?
Now, that's one of the few moments in the side quest sequences where I wish things were a little more tightly timed to the story, because it feels weird to me that Rokurou is having that conversation in a way that doesn't acknowledge that Shigure is dead and Rokurou is the one who killed him. I still love it, don't get me wrong, but especially given how tight the other side quests were, that it's a little different. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Grail, in terms of wishing it would be a little more tightly timed, because I'm sure that's why it's written the way that it is, because you can probably access this before you have the final confrontation with Shigure, but that just makes it the case for me that it's almost like I wouldn't wish this to be a missable thing, because it would be sad to have missed it, but if they were going to write it like this, it almost makes me feel like maybe it should have been missable or become irrelevant after you beat Shigure, because the timing of it doesn't make as much sense after that. Lightspear Blast! Only I'm allowed to use Lightspear techniques. It's no Lightspear cannon, but it's still pretty sweet. Any excuse to stab your opponent a bunch of times. Preferably with a cool name. Thousand Swords. Who has that? Is that from one of the games I haven't played or one of the games I have played? It's not on the top of my head, but it is a great name. Oh, there you go. Leave it to Rose to have some good stabbing techniques. That is some deep Judith gameplay lore too, but I love that. Winged Sword Rain. That's a very neat name.
I'm sorry. I know you were hoping to negotiate an alliance.
Don't worry. I don't think he's someone we could fight alongside.
Come on, Rokurou. You wanted to kill him from the very start, didn't you?
Oh, most definitely.
No. Well, maybe a little.
So you did want to.
You're a pretty scary guy when push comes to shove. Whatever happened to honoring your ancestral debt?
I don't think I'm a hypocrite. My debt was made when I was human. That has nothing to do with the demon I am now.
That's how you really look at it?
I do. I incurred my debt toward you after I became a demon, and you can count on me to repay it.
I'll take your word for it then.
But Rokurou, when the Count said he was going to kill Lord Shigure, was that really something impossible to forgive?
How do I say it? I will kill anyone who disparages Arangetsu's skill. That's all? That's just nonsense. I'm sure I sound like the Count. I won't ask you to understand.
Of course I don't understand. But still, I don't think it's nonsense. There are just some things a person can't surrender.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Grail. He's just so casual and laid back about who he is. I guess to the point we were talking about earlier, because he's so comfortable with his identity as a demon. But
Our scout ship has returned.
anyone who is so lacking of internal conflict over being a demon is pretty unnerving, I think.
We have meat and a mushroom.
Good luck out there.
They really don't want us to get that last material available in that region of the ocean. All right, was that the end? It felt like it was, but there wasn't a trophy that popped, which makes me feel like perhaps there's more. No, there is more. Okay. We're off to Logros. Glad I checked. Yeah, not the benchmark example, but maybe the best example for Eleanor, because I feel like her struggles with understanding Rokurou help her to arrive at her like understanding that she herself doesn't really have as firm a direction in the world in terms of what's right and wrong than she initially thought. So kind of giving her character the disruption that it needs to figure out her own path. And yes, certainly a kind of disruption that would be different than what you'd get from the more standardized demon. It's interesting too, though, because remember, most demons, like, I think they're not like Rokurou in the sense that they're more anxious and overpowered by the conflict between their desires and actions that has like created the malevolence that's consumed them. That skit was interesting the more I'm thinking about it, because as Rokurou was talking about the difference between debts he incurred as a human and the debts he incurred as a demon, perhaps part of what it is that makes him so comfortable with being a demon yet still malevolent in the sense of the friction between beliefs and actions that makes you into a demon is that he is comfortable with his demonic identity, but he also is clearly still bound to his clan and family in a way that he kind of has let go or suppressed by virtue of like conceptually leaving behind his human life in a way that as a person he can't really do. So it's sort of like a particular flavor of malevolence that allows him to be comfortable and laid back and casual as a demon in a way that we don't always see, while still being logically malevolent in the way that is required of a demon. Yes, the demon who's just a guy, Grail. I love that way of thinking of it.
Welcome.
You came back.
I did. This place is important to me.
Are you sure it's okay to be in a town like this?
Don't worry about us. Besides, I'm more worried about the bar. I'm only away for a little while, and look at this place. The casks are empty, and all the food tastes like dirt. Just a little bit ago, we finally got a delivery in. It was barely enough to open up shop.
Do you have enough to make Mabo curry?
I do.
Great.
Thanks for worrying about us. But leave the town to the townsfolk. You should just focus on what you have to do. Just make sure you don't have any regrets.
Thanks, Tabitha.
I heard you guys managed to beat Shigure Rangetsu.
Word travels fast again.
Now it's
as
acknowledged.
usual.
All right,
As
we're
I
caught up.
understand it, succession of the Rangetsu clan goes to the one who kills his predecessor. That means you're the successor, Rokurou. Or have you taken the name Shigure now?
You have to kill the head of the clan to succeed them?
I don't intend to step up as the new head. But how do you know about my family's customs?
We're all part of the same underworld. Word travels. A long time ago, we tried to assassinate another Shigure, but we lost 30 of our number instead.
Naturally. It'd take more than that to do a Shigure in.
In retrospect, I wonder if even 300 men would have been enough. Your Shigures are a tough bunch. Look at your brother. He was a legate.
Yeah, he was probably the strongest head the clan ever had.
That being said, did you know there's a demon out there not even he managed to cut down?
I'm listening.
Serious?
That must be some crazy demon if a legate couldn't even take it down.
Tell me about it.
It was a swordsman who looked like a dragon. Shigure was sent to exterminate it, but came away empty-handed. And quite recently, it was sighted at the Empyrean Store.
Ooh.
Sounds like a job only I can handle.
Oh, wait. You're not the only one here. Only fools rush in.
That's what wise men tell me.
Lil. Yeah, you should know better. He won't listen.
Besides, I think we're all fools here.
Point taken.
A dragon swordsman not even Shigure could kill. I'm getting excited.
That is a
just
pretty
thinking
cool
about it.
description.
Good luck.
It's literally just Dial, but now Dial has swords. Oh. I laugh, but it would break my heart to have to fight Dial. My boy deserves better. My boy got better. It was nice to have the resolution at the end of him turning back into a human. I'm pretty psyched. Alright. Is there any other housekeeping to do in Logris before we move on? Ah! At the inn, of course. It's always at the inn. It's never sleeping at the inn, but it's... Oh, of course, now it's sleeping at the inn because I said that. I was assuming it was going to be someone to talk to who was milling about in the lobby.
Velvet! Let me in this instant!
You can't come in. And if you do, I'll eat you.
It's not just your room, you know.
You took an oath to obey my every command if you lost our fight. And I'm commanding you to wait just a little longer.
What are you doing out here in the hall?
I left to go out on a little errand, but when I came back, Velvet shut me out of our room. I've been standing here for over half an hour, but she seems no closer to letting me in. I don't know what to do.
Any idea what she's doing inside there?
No, I don't have a clue. All I can tell you is that sometimes I can hear something like deep breathing and soft moaning.
Well, she must be doing something in there she doesn't even want a fellow woman to see.
Something she doesn't want seen. Do you think maybe she's weighing herself?
Got it in one,
Even
buddy.
if you allow for getting undressed and then dressed again, there's no chance it takes half an hour to weigh yourself.
Could she be putting on makeup? I've been yelled at for barging in on that before, although not by Velvet.
That's just because you're a guy. I hardly think Velvet would have a problem with me seeing that.
This is no time to just stand there lollygagging, kiddo. Velvet is obviously in great danger this very minute. Her life is hanging in the balance.
She's right. You know Velvet, never letting her weaknesses show. She probably kicked Matt and Eleanor out because she didn't want anyone to see her in such bad pain.
It would explain the heavy breathing and moaning, too. Now that you mention it, right before I left, she had a stiff expression and she did not look well.
Well, kiddo, are you going to abandon her in her time of need? The moment to test your mettle has come at last. Test my mettle.
More like test your meddling.
Won't you? The fated decisive hour has finally arrived! Velvet!
What is it, V?
Nice.
Huh? Well, I thought you might die. So I...
Seriously? A little cleaning isn't gonna kill me.
But you were looking pale, and we could hear you breathing strangely and making weird sounds.
I don't think I was breathing strangely.
Then what was that?
The classic trickster, that Magilu.
Sounded like...
When you're cleaning glass, you breathe on it first, don't you?
Then what about the moaning?
The inn has this room cleaned regularly, but they missed a lot of the details. When I looked at the cups, I saw they still had tea.
This one's
stains
right
from
up there
whoever
with the
drank
skit
out of it
about
last.
Magilu's book
That's enough to
skirt.
make
Speaking
anybody
of
moan in
Magilu.
disappointment.
Oh, I see. But if you told me you were cleaning the room, I would have offered to help you now.
Everyone has their own unique way of cleaning things. So in the end, it's just faster to do it myself. My sister had her own ways, and I'm sure you do too, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Anyway, I'm finished so you can come back in again. Whew, what a relief to have that all done.
Just every now and then, not even that commonly, which I think for their rarity makes them stand out all the more. Oh, and we have another. Yeah, that's an interesting thing to contemplate, Grail, what you said about what the game would be like if Velvet were more like Rokurou at the beginning. So let's play that out. I mean, what would you imagine that looking like? Because for me, I'll say, like, I find it really hard to imagine that after 3 years of imprisonment and betrayal by Artorias, that Velvet could wrap her head around being the same person at all, which I think is part of why she is represented at being so radically and drastically different in a way that kind of overwhelms us since we only see the time jump. But do you have a sense of what that might look like or how you would tell that version of the story in your head?
Benwick told me that you can mop the floor with the water you've used for washing rice, and it'll make the wood shiny. Is that true?
It is. Not only does it get the floor clean, it'll put on a layer of rice bran oil at the same time. 2 birds with 1 stone.
But why is it that birds get stoned?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, rice water has a lot of uses. The first time you use a new earthenware pot, boil rice water in it, and you'll extend its lifespan. And if you use it when you're rehydrating dried fish, it'll tenderize it and take away the fishy smell too. And if you water plants with it, it acts as a fertilizer. It's really useful stuff.
Wow, look at you, Velvet. Maybe I could see you with a family after all.
Oh.
You don't have to act so surprised.
Still, I've never read that in any of my books before. How did you end up learning all that?
I learned from Celica, who learned it from our mom. It's just been passed down across the family.
Wow! What else did you learn from your sister growing up?
Celica taught me everything our mom knew about cooking, from the basics to more advanced techniques. Speaking of which, rice water is really useful when cooking too. If you use it to boil radishes, it'll get rid of their bitter taste. When you use it to boil bamboo shoots or burdock roots, they'll soften and take on a nice white color. My mother taught Celica that anyone who threw away rice water wasn't qualified for housework, and my sister passed it on to me too.
You know so many cool things!
When I needed to make when you need to make a child eat their vegetables, it'll go over better if you can cook them tender and not so bitter.
I bet you'd make a pretty good mom one day, Velvet.
You really think so? Actually, since you're here, Bienfu, I have to ask. Those are discarded vegetables on your tray there, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're just raw scraps left over from cooking. I was on my way to throw them out just now.
What are you talking about? That's all still good stuff you can use. Look at those radish leaves. Dice them up, fry them in oil, add soy sauce, cooking wine, bonito flakes, and sesame seeds, and voila! A perfectly healthy topping for rice.
Bing, bang, boom, lickety-split. 5-minute job.
Side on a mirror, it won't fog up. Put some salt on those lemon rinds, and you can use them to scrub a wash basin sparkling clean.
I feel like I should be taking notes.
Velvet! You're a treasure trove of knowledge.
You know what's been bothering me? These pirates are way too wasteful with their food. They leave so much garbage.
You might be getting a little carried away here.
Yeah, I think you've made the jump from potential mom to bothersome in-law.
That was an interesting skit because actually something that was on my mind, I think yesterday, was I was thinking about our experience playing Tales of Berseria together and comparing that with my impression the first time I played it. And it occurred to me, like, it really left an impression on me the first time I played this, that the main focal character of this party was a woman, because that was and still is pretty unusual in the broader universe of JRPGs, even beyond the Tales games. And this time, I don't know if it was just that we're doing it in this Tales of Praxis context, where we're looking at all of the Tales games in conversation with one another, but her her gender just wasn't that foregrounded for me in terms of thinking about her character. So I was wondering why that is. And then I was also wondering, well, what role, if any, does the fact that she's a woman play in her overall development in the narrative? And I feel like there is something interesting to say, like even in that skit, that was what brought it up for me now, about this idea that she kind of, like, she throws away any idea of maternalism or, like the traditional sort of motherly or sisterly support that you would expect from that kind of character in order to harden her heart against Artorias and seek revenge. And she kind of gradually opens up to that as she's able to get attached to Laphicet the Malik. And then, of course, as she's betrayed and shut down by Artorias and Anominat, she sort of loses touch with that, but then arrives back at a kind of maybe like fiercely protective and emotionally complex perspective on motherhood and support in that third act insight that, she can be resentful and hateful and also supportive and loving at the same time. And so I have to imagine that's probably part of when we look at that last embrace of Velvet and Anominat, her brother, Laphicet, and the support that she's able to extend to him. I think that kind of realization of a more emotionally mature and robust perspective on motherhood and sisterhood is probably part of what Velvet is represented and what she's enacting by virtue of that act with him at the end of everything that makes possible the next stage of the world. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Yeah, so the most familial Tales game in existence, Grail, what do you mean by that? Are you just referring to what we've spoken about in the past in terms of all the characters really being defined by their relationships with other members of their own family, or do you have something else in mind? So I don't know. I mean, I think surely there's something there, like I was just talking about, so I don't want to act as if there's not. I'm interested, I think, because there is, and we can take that as table stakes. But I don't know. I feel like playing this, especially right after a bunch of the other Tales games, it's just foregrounded for me that it seems like a pretty constant theme across them that they all think about family and relationships, and pretty complicated ones at that, in one way or another. So if this game does go about it in a different way, and I'd like to think also that it does, I want to understand more of why that's the case and what the difference is here. I think we've talked around this and, dug into it in various ways without putting a name to it across the stream. So I don't think it's an impossible or intractable question. I think it's just an interesting one to think about a little more pointedly as we wrap up our time with it. And yeah, that to follow up on your earlier comment, that's an interesting picture of Velvet too. And I suppose as I'm thinking about the different ways in which she could go being imprisoned for 3 years, you could also imagine her sort of retreating more into herself and becoming more introverted and, as you say, quiet as a result of that imprisonment. So you could imagine her arc starting out in that kind of more withdrawn space and then being sort of riled up and having her vengeance stoked by going out into the real world and seeing everything that Artorias has done, as opposed to starting from a place of that kind of hardened, hateful resolve and opening up in the other direction. Be interesting to think about the different ways in which the plot and character development might cascade from there based on the positions in which Velvet started. It might be interesting almost to think about how, even though those might feel like different arcs, they might arrive at the same place. Because remember, one of the core insights of the third act is the idea that the important thing is like those self-contradictory impulses within you. So you might think whether you start at the withdrawn or the aggressively hateful side, what's important is going through the cadences to understand that both of those aspects are aspects of you and embracing them both. Yin and yang and all that. All right. Now, I think we hopefully have just enough time to wrap up Rokurou's quest at the Empyrean's throne. And that'll be a perfect moment at which to call it a night if things go to plan. Yeah, well, it's definitely worth us thinking about and teasing out a bit more over the rest of our time with Berseria and beyond. So we got time, but I think that's fair, Grail, and a really great place to start with it. Sorry, I'm doing too many things. I had to remember where we're warping to. I think there is something interesting and almost meta-narrative about the way she starts in terms of, as you say, suppressing her feminine traits. It's almost, you might be able to read it as an interesting kind of commentary where when she is freed from her prison and sort of the way in which she's been used and objectified in the world, she feels like the only way in which to get any agency and tell her own story in the world is to take on a more traditionally masculine presence that sort of erases all of her familial motherly instincts in favor of pure revenge. Something that is more, aggressive, masculine energy, all of that stuff. And so part of what allows her to ultimately grow and become more holistic is finding the right context in which to get back in touch with her feminine and maternal side, but then also recognizing, in the spirit of yin and yang and the balanced energies and everything that we were talking about, that part of what it is to embody whatever role you have in life and whatever gender you are is to embrace both active and passive and masculine and feminine energies, which, by the way, and this is something that I talk about in my analysis of Tales of the Abyss too, is a very standard, esoteric principle in terms of, theological interpretations of the foundations of the universe and the cosmologies that ground all of creation. The idea that if you think about the divine presence from which the created world emanates, there are both active and passive principles that make that creation and the dynamics of the world everything that they are. And those are oftentimes schematized in terms of masculine and feminine presences that undergird the created and the spiritual worlds. Which I bring up because, of course, as we talked about at the end of the main story, of course, the full realization of Velvet's character arc and her embrace of Innominat is the mythopoeic and cosmological foundation for the world as it would be redeemed by Saray. So I think her wrestling with her various kinds of masculine and feminine energies and then embracing her full actualization in Innominat is not divorced at all from the the rectification of the universe and the creation of something new from what we see here. I think they're probably two faces of the same thing at the end of the day. Dragon folk!
It's the dragon swordsman, so this is the demon Shigure couldn't beat.
Wind. She has a wind path. Triangle, excellent. Funny, despair-inducing. There are lots of different names you could put to it. I'm glad it's not, though. Oh, is the demon their dad or something? That would be cool. That I did not see coming from this quest. Yeah, maybe the difference, I'm just thinking out loud, maybe at least one idea for what makes the difference in terms of family theming in Berseria versus some of the other Tales games is, like you were saying, Grail, in terms of it all going back to family. I think, at least at first pass, it does strike me as fair to say that all of the character arcs and what they're wrestling with have something to do with some important family relation in their life. And I don't know that that's typically true of Tales games. I think it's always going to be the case that there are some key family relationships, like, you know, Natures of Fatherhood and Tales of Symphonia with Lloyd, you know, wrestling with the idea of Dirk versus Kratos and everything like that. But you think of someone like Colette, and her journey doesn't have a lot to do with family as such. Or something like Tales of Destiny. Of course, family is central for Ruti and how she thinks about her place in the world. But someone like Gar, he's more concerned with, you know, what it is to be a king. And someone like Stan, he leaves home, but he leaves home and his family is kind of in the rearview mirror. So maybe it's just that it's more of the common currency between all characters in this, in a way that you don't get in a lot of other stories. I know. Yeah, that's definitely a key and interesting element of Vesperia. I was thinking about that the other day. I don't know if it's going to factor into my my analysis, but it's definitely remarkable. Except, I mean, they have no family members that they're sort of wrestling with in the present tense, but of course, the presence of Judith's dad looms large for her in a way that she doesn't immediately open up about. Yet another interesting point in favor of me figuring out how to play the director's cut at some point. Don't have to convince me of that. Awesome. Nice you got to do his higher tier mystic art in this specific fight. I know, and what a context in which to see it for the first time, right? Sometimes things come together.
I won't lose here. Not to anyone but Shigure.
Wait, she's a woman?
Twist! And what an appropriate time for it with everything we were just talking about.
My brother died by my hand.
I see. Well done,
she just say...
Yeah. You see, this dragon swordsman was a previous Shigure. And my mother.
Wow.
I see. So, the previous Shigure was a woman.
It's a pretty good twist.
You killed your own mother?
Oh, wow.
Why?
That's just how it goes in my clan.
I didn't think about how Eleanor would hear that.
My grandfather to take the name Shigure, and my brother did the same to her. It's an endless cycle.
But she should be dead. How did she become a demon?
No, this was a Moloch. One that was halfway to becoming a dragon by the looks of it.
So what then? She was reincarnated as a Moloch? But she still got to keep all her human memories somehow. It all seems a little too convenient, doesn't it?
Maybe her feelings were just that strong. Or perhaps...
Does it really matter? She fought like a real member of the Rangetsu clan would. And that sword belonged to my mother.
Do you think Tabitha knew about this?
if she did, she sure played us for damn fools. We're going to need to have a chat with her.
That was a great musical theme, too. Wow. Oh, the look on Eleanor's face when she said, "You knowingly killed your own mother." Jesus. Really glad, by the way, that we did the Eleanor side quest before this one. That just worked out serendipitously, but sometimes the timing does that.
Show us your determination.
Good luck out there. Don't come back empty-handed.
Show him how.
All right, we've got a bone to pick with Tabitha and Logris. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Rokurou's insight is at the end of this, because he's been very clear about saying, "No, I'm in demon now. I care about my obligations as a demon. My family doesn't really matter." But again, that's a malevolent demon talking, and he clearly does seem to have some kind of attachment that he's kind of not willing to directly name or interact with in terms of his family history and clan, and he's clearly just perpetuated that cycle that belonged to his human lineage, which he claims to no longer have a real hold on him. So I wonder how he'll make sense of that, the resolution of that obligation, which he had at least claimed to have previously been released from. Is that the tavern, I think, right? Yeah. Where I think our timing will be almost right on the money. It'll be a few minutes over, but not bad for a Friday.
So your fateful encounter was a success.
It was.
You knew who the dragon swordsman really was, didn't you?
Did you use us for your personal revenge?
No. That loss we suffered those 20-odd years ago was entirely on us bloodwings. Hell, that Shigure was so good she managed to fight our people off while holding her newborn with one hand.
Newborn? Would that have been Rokurou?
I always thought the Rangetsu weren't ones for being sentimental. I was so surprised. I asked her why she did it. She had blood all over her face. But she looked at me with this very soft smile and said, "This precious child has the potential to cut me down and go on to be the strongest swordsman. It's my duty to protect him."
I hate that the lines get cut off like that.
Passed down no longer. But at least that wish I could fulfill. I owe you one, Tabitha.
And I you. That's one long-standing worry that I can now let go.
So he's ended the cycle of his family.
Sure
That's interesting.
With this, Rokurou?
The Shigure, My mother was a strict person. When I was a kid, she was always scolding me for something. But for the very first time in my life, she actually praised me.
Wow.
That felt really good to hear.
Rokurou.
And I also learned why Shigure hadn't been able to carry out his mission. It's not that he couldn't kill her, he just chose not to. To take the life of one's own parent, that is an experience you don't need to have more than once.
Even as an exorcist and a demon.
Yeah. At least that's what I think.
Wow. Proof of conquering masters of the sword. Rokurou's skills have reached their zenith. Man, that was a really interesting one. I'm going to have to sit with that over the weekend because I think, yeah, like we were talking about Grail, and like you mentioned, I think there is something really interesting in how, as you say, he's so defined by his family and this need to dominate his brother. But I think in the same way that that Velvet distinguishes between Artorias and Arthur, I feel like there's some sense in which the cognitive dissonance from Rokurou comes from distinguishing between Shigure, his brother, or rather the human Rokurou's brother, and Shigure, the legate, the representative of the abbey, who the demon Rokurou is sort of honor bound to bring down by virtue of his duty to Velvet. So I think there's a lot of bifurcation of obligations and identity in terms of his own mental gymnastics. And I feel like that confrontation with his mother was a really unexpected but interesting catharsis and resolution of that. So I'm gonna have to think more about that, especially with the anti-parallels, I guess, between him and Eleanor, with Eleanor's whole raison d'etre coming from the death of her mother, or the murder rather, by a demon, and Rokurou kind of resolving his family drama by killing his mother. And maybe kind of releasing Shigure from it as well. Like Shigure, his brother, that is. Maybe that's part of it. Like, I think there's an interesting sense in which that battle with his mother had to happen after him killing his brother, not just because of like the proper line of inheritance within their clan, but also in terms of like the sense in which Rokurou was helping his brother to process this thing that his brother was obligated to do according to the laws of the clan, but which he couldn't bring himself to do, like Rokurou said. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe part of how he's overcoming it in the end is that it's less about him resolving his family issues, because especially by the time he's beaten Shigure the legate, he's kind of put that in his past and really put it to bed, like he says. But he's doing this act of kindness for Shigure as much as anything, as kind of a postscript to their final duel. Something there, I think, but definitely, to me, one of the less accessible and therefore more interesting of the side quests. Yeah, definitely a logical but really interesting pairing. The demon, the exorcist, the daughter who didn't get over the loss of her mother, and the son who had to deal with killing his mother. All right, well, wow. As I said before, I'm not even going to try to rank those character short stories or whatever you like to call them, because every single one, I mean, Velvet thinking about the nature of food and her sister and passing on her sister's cooking arts. Laphicet dealing with the idea of what it means to heal the suffering and kind of setting up his philosophy as Mautellus. Rokurou processing his own family history and the nature of his mom. Eleanor coming to terms with the loss of her mom and the obligations placed upon her by her name and the gem, and passing that on to Kamoana. Magilu thinking about her relationship with Melchior and what it is to be not only a daughter but also a student and a mentee. and Eisen, of course, thinking about not only everything to do with Edna, but also his relationship with Savid, and relationship to the meaning and value of death and passing that on. That too is something interesting, which strikes me as something that is also really resonant with the end of the game and the way that this game, as a prequel, passes its lessons on to the world of Tales of Berseria, because this didn't come out to me until I was just briefly synopsizing every one of the side quests, but it seems like to a T, every one of those side quests we just went through is not just about the characters, providing more of their own background and working through their history, but is also about passing something from their own heritage on to someone else beyond them. You get that in every single one of them, which is not something that you always get in a JRPG or even in a Tales game. And I think in an interesting way, in reference to what we were saying earlier, Grail, that as much as anything to me highlights the degree to which this game focuses on family relationships, because it's not just about the family relationships that define each of these characters. It's also about that kind of transmission to the next generation in people who bear a family resemblance to you, which is a very kind of parental thing for these characters to do once they've been through their arcs, to pass it on. I love that. Yeah, and absolutely, I would count Savid's quest too. I mean, I see that as partly Eisen, but like we were talking about back when we did it, I mean, that's a great moment of transmission and dialogue between the games, because Savid's that perfect connective tissue between them. Yeah, and I mean, even Velvet's quest, I mean, I would call that family related. It was kind of the fulfillment of a family promise in terms of passing on her own family and sister's recipe to Nico after the fact through the family that was her dog's, which is as touching as anything, especially as a dog dad. Well, needless to say, I loved that. I would like to spend some more time with the other extra content, so I think that'll be great to dig into on Monday. A nice holiday vibe for those who are able to take the Monday off. And if you're diving into the Monday grind, hopefully it'll be a nice way to put a capstone on that before we dive into our next adventure together. So we'll be back, but I'll definitely be sitting with all of these wonderful portraits of these characters throughout the weekend. Really nice, I think, and a nicely paced story that we were able to have the whole main story, but then take a week just thinking about each of these characters on their own terms, and get that very different perspective for how they're all interrelated, and what they teach each other in the world through this party. Yeah, Grail, I mean, as you said, this might be the way into Legendia that I always needed and never had, because it really does have me appreciating this method of storytelling in a way that I know Legendia was also trying to do. So that could be a lot of fun. Oh, don't say jobless, Grail. Oh, well, I hope you're doing okay. I hope that doesn't mean you're in any trouble, but I'll be rooting for you one way or another. And the stream and the narrative study will be here for you no matter your situation. So hopefully that'll be uplifting in whatever way you need. Yeah, stay tuned. I'll keep everyone posted on what we're going to be thinking for the next Tales game that we'll be looking at. I'll post one more time the link to the poll. So if you want to make your voice heard in terms of what we're studying next, this is the time. There you go. Well, sometimes if you're looking for an excuse to leave, that can be a really uplifting and motivating thing in itself. So if it ends up going that way, I hope it can be a positive thing for you in that sense, my friend. Yes, it was fun as well. Pottery, great to see you too. Appreciate you hanging out as you were able to. Stay tuned. I don't know whether I'll be forecasting over the weekend before I drop it, the release date of the Destiny and Vesperia article, but early this coming week. I am happy to commit to that. I'll be rolling out the Vesperia pins to celebrate on the stream after it's published, and we'll have a good chunk of text and analysis to dig into and talk about together as we roll into the next phase of Tales of Praxis together. Cheers! Yeah, you let me know about that, Grail, because I'd love to check it out if you do. Friends, thank you so much for joining me on this fine Friday night. I hope it was a great way to kick off your weekend. In the meantime, until I see you again, think well, game well. We'll be back same time on Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, rolling through some more final thoughts on Berseria before we roll on to our next journey through this wonderful series, the Bandai Namco masterpiece that is Tales of. Until then, my friends, you have a good one. Cheers.